Huh.
The sound check from remote. You guys hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me, John?
Yep, sounds good.
Let's give it a little more time.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everyone, we'll give it a little more. There we go. Now we got a quorum at least. We'll give it another minute.
Yeah.
Probably, can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure before there's a presentation later. Can you hear me? All right?
Yes, you sound good. Miranda, I haven't heard you. How's your audio?
I'm here. I just still don't have a camera, so apologies. I will be without.
That's all right. Usually keep mine off. Is Macy joining us too, Miranda, or are you taking the role and everything?
I think Macy, I thought I saw.
I see town
don't see.
clerk.
I don't see. Do we see town clerk?
I see
That
town
should
clerk at
be
Netherland.
Macy. Yeah. Macy, are you there? Otherwise, I'd be happy to get us going for the sake of getting us going. Okay.
All right, well,
Do you want to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready. If Macy, I couldn't tell if that was you, but we'll go ahead and get started for now.
Thanks. I think she's having some audio issues. Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to the September 5th, 2023 BOT meeting here, all virtual tonight. So thanks for being here. So we will go ahead and start with a roll call.
All right, starting the meeting at 7:02 p.m. Mayor Billy,
Yes, here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hold,
Here.
Trustee Sterling,
Here.
Trustee Severs,
Here.
Trustee Mountain,
Here.
and I think that is it. If I'm not just doing a quick scan, which we would note for the record that Trustee Corvalon and Trustee Coombs Ismail are currently absent.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, everyone. So go ahead. We'll start it off with our consent agenda tonight. We have 5 items on consent. We do have representatives from and I apologize, I don't actually know how to say your name correctly, but Godot.
Oh, Mayor Billy Godot Communications.
Godot. That sounds so much better than how I said it. So we have representatives from Godot Communications who are here as well, who would probably like to let me see what I'd written for my notes. Yeah, and like to say hello and introduce themselves. So why don't we do that first, and then we'll get into any other questions on consent. Go ahead, folks, from
Absolutely.
Good
First
deal.
of all, Mayor Billy, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about to meet everyone. This whole project is we're internally we're so incredibly excited about this. The last opportunity we had a chance to work with a town on visual identity and representation, it was Commerce City. So Nederland is a lot more interesting to spend a few months of our lives with than figuring out the differentiators of Commerce City. And so in this, Mayor Billy, Miranda, and we run around with Holly Rogan a lot over at Lions. And every time your name comes up, I say, "Oh, we've never met." And they go, "Oh my God, you're going to love him. He's a character." So you have some pressure going into this. My name is Beckett Taylor. I'm the creative director of Godot Communications. And I am joined by Christopher Vu Gandon-Lay and E.T. Lawrence here. You're going to be seeing a lot of our faces. We were selected for the visual identity work that Nederland is diving into over the next few months. We also built that really kind of funky cubed garden that went in by your reservoir. It's how we kind of connected with all of you in that creative front. So going into this new ventures, same faces, we've got a lot of hope and a lot of excitement around this, and we look forward to hearing from all of you, and all of you getting so sick of us listening to you constantly that I'm sure we'll do a good job for you. Vu and ET, do you want to give us a quick hello and fill in anything I just kind of mouthed my way through?
Hi, I'm super excited to work with Netherlands. We already have some ideas what we would like, but first we do need to hear from all of you, and I am so excited to pick all of your brain.
225 people. That's what we've committed. We've committed to hearing from 225 people in some way, shape, or form.
That's more voters than we have.
We can bug them to vote too and see if they're registered. while we're
Thanks.
doing it, yeah. I'm Vu Gandon-Lay. I'm really excited about this project, y'all. Thank you so much for having us on. Just lovely to meet everybody. Yeah, we're stoked.
That's really our piece. We just wanted to say hello, let you know we
this
exist.
is a high.
We're not going to suffer with you till the end of this meeting, but
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
One thing
It already shows you have good
Love is
judgment, so
like-
that's a good sign.
procedural process. We love meeting notes. Before we scoot, does anybody have any questions for us? Does everyone know what we're talking about? While you have us here, we're not actually kicking this off until we're like the big formal kickoff isn't for like a week or two yet. So, but while we have you here, do you have any questions for us, or should we get out of your hair and not interrupt your meeting?
I don't know. For me, I could say, let's give it 5 minutes before you, I mean, if you're a week out, let's hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Miranda, would you mind giving the 10,000 square foot view here, and I will.
I would. Yep, we'd be happy to. So Town of Nederland applied for a tourism management grant, and our grant was oriented around kind of some branding work and really identifying who is Nederland, what does it mean to come here, what are our expectations of visitors when they are here, and just using creative marketing, branding strategies to really identify, who is Nederland. And I think that kind of theme will really follow us as we work on the comprehensive plan and a lot of other plans, and making sure we have this really tying identity behind how do we want to move forward as a community. So the great opportunity was we received money from the Colorado Tourism Office, $20,000 from them, and we're coming forward with a $5,000 match. We sent out an RFP for design consultants to bid. We received 15 proposals, narrowed it down to the top 2, but Godot blew us out of the water. When we interviewed, just really truly understand the uniqueness that Nederland is navigating, the importance of that resident first communication, that this is about our community first, and it is not about transforming your community into one that's, striving to bring in more tourism, but rather one that really wants to honor and recognize the value that is Nederland, and utilizing a campaign to really push that messaging forward. So they really understood that, and they spoke to it throughout their interview. I had the pleasure of working with this whole team under a Boulder County Public Health. And so just think that the work already that they've done up here has given them a great foundation, and I know they're going to dig in. And I also just appreciate that they take a really creative approach. It's not just kind of your standard hey, here's your flyer, here's your logo. It's really who is Nederland, and they're going to work to get to the heart of that by doing that outreach and just spending time and being in our community. So couldn't be more excited to work alongside them and really appreciate all they've done for Nederland so far. And it's just going to be an amazing relationship. And the final product is going to be something I know this whole community will be proud to really rally behind.
Oh, thank you, Miranda. That is way better. It's so nice to have somebody else brag about you. So this talk of knowing Nederland, we don't live on the moon or something. We lived down in South Boulder in 2006 when we bought this house. We were going to buy Nederland instead, but y'all didn't have good cell phone service or something. So we're not like being introduced to the town. I have pictures of my kid on the carousel. I want to emphasize one thing is even as we speak, Miranda and I were kind of texting back and forth around contract language and things. Me and everyone on the team fully and completely understands that the goal of this project is not more. Right. This isn't, we're removing language around marketing and advertising because the goal of this is not to go, hey, look, we reached 2 million people and 50,000 more people drove by and flicked a cigarette butt out of their car window as they drove, right? We're approaching this as a value add, a banner that people at Nederland can stand behind and go, okay, this feels like me. And if you like this, then maybe come visit, maybe don't. But if you don't like this, just stay out, like we're coming into this with this understanding that our goal is not to sell everybody on their brother on coming to this little town that we all love. In terms of our organization, we are 17 years old now. We founded in 2007, I think. We've done some really cool stuff. Vu started the National Suicide Hotline out of grad school at Columbia. So every time you see 988, he was like their second hire and was called the foremost suicide executive in America. We're not going to be talking about death and dying is another thing we're really excited about in this, right? Even saying frozen dead guy days is kind of triggering us. So maybe we can not say that for a little bit, right? For my part, I was a cultural attaché with the US government. I was in Russia for about 7 years there where I did crisis communication and taught art history and things. So we have a little bit of gravity as a group, I think. And I hope you Google us and go to our website. It's Godot Creative or GodotCommunications.com. We have a little bit of gravitas here, but we don't have a lot of ego in this stuff. It's probably the reason we got to do cool things is we don't come in like we know everything. And we're gonna make something super beautiful and probably a little bit weird.
We're weird here. So
that sounds like Nederland.
Nice. Lovely.
We'll get along. And then finally, Vu isn't local. Vu is down in Austin. But has a lot of Colorado connections. You did your AmeriCorps here?
I did my AmeriCorps Vista service in Colorado right out of undergrad. Down in Colorado Springs. But I'm in Colorado as much as possible. As you could imagine, living in 110 degrees that is Austin, Texas. Right now.
So even though he's not local, there are 2 other people on the team here that you'll meet when we kick off. We're getting one of those Frontier $399 all-you-can-fly things. So I suspect we're actually probably going to be seeing Vu once every 2 weeks as we go through this. Cool. Any other questions? Billy, did that kind of get to your answer? Or whoever wanted more, did that give you
Tom had asked. Tom, you
game on.
A good 5 minutes.
That was the best 5 minutes we spent.
It will be the best 5. No,
it's all downhill from here.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, y'all. We will leave.
A great meeting, everybody.
Miranda, feel free to share my information and ET and Vu's information with anybody and everyone. If people want to shoot me texts. That's 2 people out of our 225,000 that we've heard from. So we have an open door.
I sure will. And one thing I would note is as was mentioned, we were talking about the contract and some wording that needed to be changed. There was some language in there specifically kind of referencing a 10% marketing budget and recognizing that's not our intention here. The plan and our ask as you approve this would be to recommend that the RFP be amended to include a 10% documentation section, and then direct staff to revise that language. I don't know if I'm going to read. I can read the whole thing, but
if I could give you 30. Sorry, Miranda, I jumped in too soon. Go ahead.
No, I think Trustee Sterling was going to jump in.
Yeah, I can read it. So basically, the header being documentation 10%, and the two bullet points underneath. First one would be the technical brand document detailing font, colors, imagery, and layout for future application. And then the second one being high-level discussion document highlighting possible placement strategies, applications, and audiences, where communication and education match the created brand. In other words, as Miranda states, this is very much, and as you very well articulated, this is not about getting more visitors in. However, we want to capitalize on what we're here and what that outreach or what that communication and the branding document might look like to reach out to those managing visitors.
So when you do approve consent agenda, the recommendation is that you approve consent agenda with the amendment as noted by Trustee Sterling, just so we have the record, and then we'll go back up and adjust the contract. And Rebecca, if you had.
Yeah, I just want to give everybody some kind of industry insight on why we're struggling with this. In that proposal, that also stuck out to us as marketing for what? Right, like we're not going to come in and go, you should spend $12,000 a year in ski magazines, right? That isn't this project. So in creative, you've got comms people, you have PR people, and you have advertising people. And as a creative agency, we do all of those things. But what they do in order to differentiate themselves is they name things different things. So comms people might call that a comms plan. Marketing people might call it a marketing plan. PR people might call it a strategic roadmap or a discovery document, right? It's all those things. It's not really a marketing plan. It's probably more of a strategic discovery document. But what it basically does, what it very much does, is at the end of all the input and of all the output, you have all these decisions. We have a little mini documentary that we show to the people of Nederland that are most impacted by this. And, so we have all this output, but then one day Peter wakes up and he has a document library and he has to say something and he feels alone, right? Because he's got all these beautiful creative assets, but all of a sudden he has to announce, a fair or a flood, something like that. What this strategic discussion document does is the brand document documents all the visual choices, imagery, font, color. The strategic document is all the discoveries we made in that same time about who we want to talk to, right? So if at some point we're going through this and 12 people in the focus group say, who I wish we had more of? Landscape photographers. We make a note in this that the community felt that landscape photographers were really courteous visitors when they came there. And you end up with kind of these channels, these paths. It's documenting the demographics of the people that we feel Nederland should be talking to, whereas the other documents detail what we're saying. Does that make sense? So whatever we call it, as long as we know that at the end there's going to be this thing in front of Peter documenting the behavioral choices that we made through this, in addition to the mechanical choices of brand design, font.
Got it.
Yeah. Cool. Beyond that, wordsmith away. Miranda, that makes sense? Yeah.
Yes, and I've already made that change. So as soon as the board passes it, I will kick it over to you for your signature.
So cool. This is also why creative directors are not allowed into town meetings, because we take points of minutia that people voted on and we expand upon them for no reason whatsoever.
Then with that, I move to approve the consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.5.
I second.
Will you please note as amended
As
with
amended.
Godot's contract as amended?
Yes. So yeah, with adaptations to the Godot contract as amended.
Second.
Random, and we got a second, I believe, too. Actually,
And I think
we need
Macy,
another
are you
second.
on? No, I
Since
don't
it
think
was-
so.
don't
Trustee
think so.
Sterling seconded. Macy,
Yeah.
can you hear?
I don't
All
see
right,
her.
it's me. I got it. I can do this.
Good.
Mayor Protem Mahold,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Mountain,
You got to spend money to make money. Yes.
Yeah.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
and Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks that all the consent items pass, and thanks Godot team. We look forward to working with you and getting at least 225 people to
220 people, and hopefully some of those will be over beers at a picnic table.
100%.
It's all about that kind of approach to meeting people too. So thank you
Good
so
to
much,
get
y'all.
Keep
Looking-
Nederland
Thank
weird.
Yeah. Have a great night. Nice to meet everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you for your
Thank
time.
you for your service.
Thank you. And with that, we will go on to our public comments on non-agenda items. We have one public comment on the non-agenda item by a person, by Stephanie Ridgway, who is a owner of an STR, and she made some great points in her she made some great points in her letter to us, and really talked about how they have looked at it as a family and how they have made the STRs, valuable to them and valuable to our community. So she wants to be part of the conversation as we move forward. So we appreciate her time. Or we appreciate her comment. Are there any other public comments on non-agenda items?
This is Teresa Robertson. I have one. Thank you.
Hey, Teresa, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Hopefully my internet holds.
Sound good right now.
Oh, good. And I just move my document over so I can read it. Hi there, Teresa Robertson, 140 East First Street. First of all, I'd like to second everything that Kayla Evans stated during the last meeting's public comment on August 15th. Secondly, I have a curiosity and a concern about what the reference definition this Board of Trustees is using for the term conflict of interest, and more specifically, what constitutes not having a conflict of interest. Over the past 6 months, I've heard several BOT members state either in a BOT committee or other public meeting that they did not have a conflict of interest in the matter being discussed. The last BOT meeting was a glaring example of one of those instances. Each time, I was surprised to hear that someone stated that they did not have a conflict of interest. My surprise was because that member has a financial and/or business connection to that topic. I am curious if BOT members are confusing the concept of neutrality with the concept of conflict of interest, that they are aspiring to remain neutral in the face of a conflict of interest. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures website in Colorado, a conflict of interest pertains to, quote, a member who has a personal or private interest in any measure or bill proposed or pending before the General Assembly shall disclose the fact to the House of which he is a member and shall not vote thereon. Colorado Constitution, Article 5, Section 43. End of quote. To me, that would mean owning a business that will be affected by a BOT's decision equals a conflict. Having a business arrangement or an alliance with someone who is bringing a matter for decision to the BOT is a conflict. Oxford Language Definition Neutrality. The state of not supporting or helping either side in a conflict, impartiality, or absence of decided views, expression, or strong feeling. The work of the BOT is a we community, not I individual responsibility and commitment. Given the importance of the work of the BOT, I think there should be a working formal definition of conflict of interest, and that more BOT members should be recusing themselves from voting on matters in which they have a conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. I appreciate it. We did have a inter-board meeting of all boards and commissions last week where we actually talked about quite a few things. The chairs and the vice chairs and Tom and myself were at the meeting, and town staff and talked about many things, including conflict of interest. And we did drill down more into the legal meanings of that, and and frankly a lot of the ambiguity that happens with it. And we do intend to really talk about this more in each group, going forward. But we appreciate your comments.
Thank you for that.
Any other comments on non-agenda items? So hearing none, we will go on to our first informational item of the evening. I'd like to welcome Division Chief Jim Chamberlain and Commander Robin Vanderleest for joining us this evening and giving us an update on where we're at with the Sheriff's Office taking over law enforcement.
Good evening. Thank you guys for having us. I am Commander Robin Vanderleest, and then Division Chief Chamberlain is here as well to help answer any questions. I don't have anything prepared. I was actually more expecting quite a few questions, but I will say that I'm excited to be working with Nederland. We've got some great things in place to get this contract going and getting our services going. So let me know what questions you have and how I can help you guys best.
Robin, this is Tom Mahold. I think the first question I would have for you is how have things gone over the past year from your perspective in keeping the peace in Nederland?
Well, I'll tell you, let me introduce myself just a little bit and then
Sure.
I'll let Jim answer that question. So I have been with the Sheriff's Department since mid-June. I'm a commander in operations and I have all three of the contract towns. So historical perspective is not going to be my forte. That's going to be Chief Chamberlain's ability to answer that, but I can tell you where we're going from here. Chief?
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay? I was having some computer problems earlier, so.
Yeah,
I don't recognize you out of uniform.
Yeah.
I still have a shirt on. It's
Okay.
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 Oh,
got it.
man.
It's close.
Better not be
I
pajamas.
think when we first started, things were a little bit rocky. You know, we were trying to fill things with extra duty, and not every day was filling. So there were calls that were going, calls that were happening that weren't really getting service on. Since we've signed the contract, we've made sure even if we didn't have someone up there for extra duty, we've responded to every call that's occurred in Nederland. We've tried to keep communication open and working with Miranda. She's been great with us. We've actually set it up so at first she and I were meeting every other week, and now she and Robin meet every other week just to discuss any issues that are happening in the town, because we want to make sure that we are working with you to make sure we're solving anything that's going on.
Good.
Our plan moving forward is we're hoping to have some more staffing in place. We've got a bunch of people in training, so we should have more staffing in place so we can put a sergeant up there sometime in October. I can't give you an exact date, but it should be in October. And then we'll work toward getting the other 2 day shift deputies. The 2 night shift deputies you've probably seen around. They're already in place, set. They're handling all the calls. And then our mountain deputies have been handling calls during the day when we don't have someone working extra duty in the town. So we're trying to fulfill everything we can so that the community feels safe and secure with our response. So again, we're here to answer any questions you have, any other questions, but I hope that helped with what you were asking, Tom.
It does. I'm going to ask a second one, then I'll shut up. That one of the questions I'm getting from citizens is when we had our own police department reporting up to our town administrator, we knew how governance worked. This is a different situation where it's by contract. How would I address that with them? The governance issue.
I'm not entirely sure by governance what the question pertains to, Jim.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I think that the question is when we had accountability because they were town employees. Now the people who are policing us are not town employees; they're contract employees. How do we? I've got no issues, but I wasn't sure exactly how to talk about governance with
I
a
got you.
situation
So
like
governing
this.
our employees.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. So obviously our employees are required to follow our policies and procedures, and they will be held to those standards. If a citizen has a question about any of the policies or procedures, they can either look on the county website. Those are posted. They can contact the office, the sheriff's office. They can contact me if it's a complaint that they have. We're more than happy to look into those. But our deputies are required to follow our policies, both with the sheriff's department and with the county as county employees.
Excellent. Okay, thanks.
And on that topic, we want to make sure we're meeting your needs. So if the town is not seeing what they're expecting from deputies, we expect you to bring it to Miranda. Miranda will bring it to us, and we'll try to correct any issues that we believe are wrong. So
And perhaps I can just jump in on that, Mayor Pro Tem Hold, that when there have been concerns, I've really appreciated the consistent communication, and it's going both ways. You know, how can town improve the way we work with Boulder County Sheriff's Office and vice versa, and everything's been very receptive. I get very quick follow-up too from both of them or from anyone that I need to chat with about, you know, how are we going to resolve things. But every time I feel like we face an issue, we develop a plan to move forward and then executed that.
Got it. Thanks.
More questions for Division Chief Tamerlan and Commander Vanderleest?
This is an open question for onboarding. When I presume if we're going to have somebody in October, are we getting close to having finalists already?
I just posted for the sergeant position last week and closes September 11th. We will start to get hopefully applicants. We have at least one, so I feel pretty confident that we will fill the position. If we have some competition, then I've invited Miranda to be part of that process. So we should have a decision by the end of September. And again, as Chief Chamberlain had mentioned, depending on staffing, we're hoping to have that sergeant in place sometime in October, mid to late October.
That's great.
But that's posted internally, right, within already existing employees? And
That's correct. Yep. We
Right.
did not open it up to outside.
Great. Okay.
I have one question. You mentioned that the mountain patrol are covering day calls as they can. Is extra duty? Are we done with extra duty altogether? I didn't think we were, but I guess when you said that, I got a little confused.
No, we still
No.
have the extra duty, and the calendar for September looks pretty good. We have most of the days filled.
Okay, great. And then the mountain patrol, maybe I heard this wrong, but just covers as they can when extra duty isn't filled or hasn't been filled.
Yeah, I noticed today we didn't have anybody extra duty in Nederland. So we have a deputy assigned to the Mountain Division, which includes Nederland. They're generally just not in Nederland the whole time as you would with a dedicated deputy.
Okay. Thanks. And then the I understand. As for the other deputies that would work underneath the sergeant, they would be more external hires that you're training during the process of academy and training, or is that? I'm just curious how you're able to target their
The physical bodies are in the academy training now. However, it'll most likely be seasoned deputies, and by seasoned, they might still be less than a year on the road that get assigned to Nederland. It won't most likely be the kids directly out of training. We don't like to put them in specialized positions if they haven't had generalized patrol experience first.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. More questions? Right now we'll have the questions from the trustees, but I will probably open it up for some public questions too. Especially if there's not many more questions from the trustees.
I will add, Miranda and I have been speaking about having a Meet the Sergeant event. That'll take place probably sometime in October, maybe early November. So once we do have a sergeant identified, it is our intention to have an in-person event where both that sergeant and I get an opportunity to meet you all in person.
Great.
Thank you. That sounds great. It tends to make a big difference. I feel like the town hall we had last earlier this year, I guess, I can't recall exactly when it was, but with you and our sheriff, there was really helpful. It just personalized things, kind of took a lot of the fear, mystery, concern, I think it helped us all, including myself, just feel good about the move we've made. So definitely look forward to meet the sergeant night.
And Commander in Chief, to both of you, thanks for working with us. It's been a smooth year, as smooth as we could have hoped, and we kind of dragged our feet in the beginning. So for that, we apologize. We appreciate what you've done for us.
No, we're happy to be here, and I can only imagine how difficult that process was for you to go from your own police department to contract policing. I'm sure that was a daunting experience for you.
And yeah, in many ways a step up.
It was
Yeah.
definitely daunting and challenging. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate those kudos. And I would like to open it up to folks in the public. If there's any questions you have, now is a good time to ask.
Well, real quick before anybody raises their hands from a first responder perspective, I just want to say the interactions that we've had with the Sheriff's Department from the NFPD perspective has been very, very professional and quite good. So it's very much appreciated.
I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. I have a meeting with my sergeants tomorrow, so I will pass that along.
Thank you.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's been nice to have it seamless that your duties go beyond. You've got duties in town, but you don't stop at the border and watch people flee.
Any more questions or comments?
I am going to stick around a little bit. I wanted to hear the DA's presentation on the community protection. So if questions do come up, I'll be available.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Commander. Appreciate that.
I just want to thank you for inviting us to the meeting. We're always more than happy to come back anytime you guys do have questions or want to speak to us. We're more than happy to entertain any questions that you have. We want to work with you so you feel like it is still your police department. You know, that's something we didn't want to take away from you. We didn't want to take away that small town police department feel. We want that to still be the case in your town. So we want to work to make sure that continues and keep that relationship up. So,
And thanks for slowing people down on 119. Me included.
Oh no, did you get pulled over?
Not yet.
Okay, good.
I mean, I've got some of lines and Superior, so looking forward to moving forward together. So with that, Chief Chamberlain, if you would like to leave us, feel free, and we will move on to the DA's presentation. And you can stay, of course.
thank you.
Yes, sir. And with that, Miranda, would you like to do a transition intro?
I would be happy to. Oh, can you hear me?
Thank you, Miranda.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, happy to. So we have a great opportunity. So when Boulder County Sheriffs came and Commander Vanderlest came, the thought was I was also talking to the DA's office and assessing what community protection programs are available for our community, and they offered to come. So tonight we have Christian Gardner-Wood, who is the Director of Legislative Affairs in a Community Protection Division with the DA's office. We'll just kind of briefly go over the different services available under Community Protection Division for residents of Boulder County. So Christian, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Miranda. I appreciate it. And good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees. I appreciate you inviting me to talk about the DA's office and our Community Protection Division. As Miranda said, I'm one of the Chief Deputy DAs in the District Attorney's Office. I also am the Director of Legislative Affairs, Community Protection, and our Diversion and Restorative Justice Unit. I have just a quick PowerPoint. I'm not going to bore you with a PowerPoint for everything, but I thought it would be nice to highlight, and I think I'm sharing the right screen. Perfect.
We got it.
I thought we just set the stage a little bit to introduce you to our Community Protection Division at the DA's office. Within our Community Protection Division, we work under the mission of the DA's office and the authority of Michael Doherty, our elected DA. So it's always helpful to kind of take that backdrop of the DA's office mission and the mission of our elected DA, which is really about maintaining public safety and seeking justice in every case and everything we do. I'm honored to work with our elected DA, Michael Doherty. I have actually worked with him for a number of years. He and I worked together at the Jefferson County DA's office when he was the assistant DA, the second in command at that office. And I followed him up to Boulder County, having really appreciated his leadership and working with him. And so I'm continuing to do that as part of his management team in Boulder. But really, you know, public safety is really the key to his mission in as well as looking at community engagement and transparency within the DA's office. And that's really where the Community Protection Division comes in within the DA's office, is that community engagement piece, as well as that transparency. We want people to know what their DA's office is doing. We want them to be able to engage with the DA's office, ask questions, seek assistance, etc. I'm also honored to be joined with our community protection specialist, Desiree Furley, who's joined the meeting. She works very closely with me and does a lot of our community engagement, our community presentations, etc. And I want to thank her for also helping put the PowerPoint together. She's a great asset to the county and to the DA's office. So when we look at the Community Protection Division, there's really three areas that we categorize our work as a division. One is with respect to consumer complaints. What we do is we work to assist consumers that have complaints with businesses, contractors, etc. That is really designed, and I'll go in more detail in a minute, but really designed for non-criminal matters. To the extent there's a criminal case, we'll certainly deal with that, but many of those consumer complaints don't rise to the level of a criminal matter, so we try to assist the community to the extent we can. We also have a prosecution unit within our Community Protection Division where we prosecute cases involving abuse of at-risk community members and also handle complex financial crimes. And then finally, again, in terms of that engagement and transparency piece, we have our community engagement and outreach. So it's really about engaging the community through outreach and education. We go to community events, to fairs, and we'll also respond to requests for any presentations or trainings that community members are asking for. And we'll talk about some examples of that in just a moment. But to get into some of the details of those three areas, first we have our consumer complaints. Again, really focused on non-criminal matters. I will tell you, sometimes the consumer complaints do get elevated to criminal matters. It may be that sometimes community members will reach out to law enforcement, and law enforcement looks at it or gets limited details and says this is a civil matter. And a lot of times law enforcement is right, it is a civil matter, and that's where our consumer complaint process comes in. Sometimes law enforcement isn't getting the full details. It's no fault of law enforcement. It's about getting the full details and understanding exactly what's going on. Once we get that consumer complaint and we get more details, we get to a circumstance where we may realize, actually, this may be criminal, and then we work with our law enforcement partners across the county to investigate that as a criminal matter and potentially prosecute it if it rises to that level. But assuming it doesn't, the way our consumer complaint process works, we would ask consumers to work with the business first, see if they can resolve the matter. If they don't, they'll reach out to Desiree, our community protection specialist, or one of our volunteers at the DA's office, and file a formal complaint process. We'll explain what that is, what we can do with that, what some of the limitations are behind that process, and work not to mediate or give legal advice, but I kind of describe it as somewhat third-party mediation. Again, it's not full mediation under the true definition of that, but basically we'll get information from the consumer, send information, send a letter to the business saying we've received as a complaint as the DA's office, ask for their side of things if there's a way to, that they see that there's a problem and a way to resolve it. And then sometimes go back and forth and work with the consumer, work with the business to see if there's some amicable resolution to that complaint. This is not a forced circumstance. To the extent the business does not want to respond or doesn't respond or doesn't feel like there's any merit to the complaint or any resolution that is necessary, we can't force that because, again, we're not acting in our authority as prosecutors under a criminal matter where we can force a circumstance. It's really just trying to help our community members with these consumer complaints. But again, recognizing that this is really designed for those non-criminal matters that we have where we try to assist community members, but we'll also work with our law enforcement partners and the community members to the extent it's criminal and move it over to that realm if that's appropriate. Next, we have our investigations and prosecutions within the Community Protection Division. Those are focused on a few areas. One are with respect to complex financial crimes that are specially handled within our Community Protection Division. We also oversee crimes involving at-risk individuals. So by that, I mean any individual that is 18 or older with an intellectual or developmental disability, or an at-risk elder, which is somebody that simply by their age, being 70 years or older, is considered at risk under the laws of the state of Colorado. When we're talking about those at-risk cases, those are generally involving physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect for somebody that needs a caretaker, or financial exploitation of that at-risk individual. We also oversee investigations and prosecutions with respect to our vulnerable communities. That involves our immigrant population, our LGBTQ population, that involves our hate crimes investigations and prosecutions, as well as a number of others. We obviously have our sexual assault prosecutions and our child abuse prosecutions, also involving vulnerable communities. Those tend to be dealt with in our sexual assault unit. The rest of sort of the vulnerable communities that we deal with and that are a priority for our DA, Michael Doherty, come into the Community Protection Division, and I oversee those. And then finally, we had talked about our community education and outreach. That's being available to community members that email the office with questions, call the office, or even sometimes show up at the front desk at the office and have questions. We will engage with them, direct them to appropriate legal or community resources if that's what's necessary based on their concern. If they feel like there's a concern about a case, how a case was handled, about an investigation, we can sometimes help give them more context and information about what's happening with that matter. We also attend resource events, community fairs, etc., to educate the community about what we do as a DA's office, to engage the community and be transparent about our work as prosecutors and of the DA's office. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we'll do presentations at the request of any community member, community organization, community group, facility, etc. Some examples are common scams and frauds that are impacting community members, identity theft, contractor fraud, internet safety, elder abuse, topics for school-aged children, etc. You name it, and we're happy to do that presentation if it touches on an area of expertise that we have within the district attorney's office. An area specifically in Nederland is Desiree, our community protection specialist, is regularly up in Nederland for the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance meetings and resource fairs, which is what I believe led to her engagement with Miranda, and then ultimately led to me being honored to be with you this evening to talk about our division. So when we think about that, here's just an example of a flyer that we have for a presentation, a very common one that we do across the county. about scams and frauds and how to protect our community members from scams and frauds. And if you see on the right side of the slide, there were 2.4 million fraud reports in the year 2022 that the federal government was aware of or received or were reported to local individuals as well. That accounted for $8.8 billion worth of loss based on frauds, with a median loss of $1,400 per consumer or per victim of a fraud or scam that existed. And you see on the screen, I'm not going to bore you with it, but you see on the screen some of the top 5 scams and frauds that we see in the United States. And that's consistent with what we see in Boulder County and what we talk to our community members about, and also to the extent we can prove a criminal case involving that scam and fraud. Those are the criminal cases that we see as well in terms of investment frauds, imposter scams, business and job opportunities, etc. So we'll talk to our community members and give a presentation about being aware of it, how to protect themselves, and even how to recover if they are a victim of a scam or fraud. So again, just one example of one of the many presentation offerings that we do as a DA's office, and one that's pretty common in Boulder County that people are very interested in, particularly when we talk about our older adult community, which tends to be the most vulnerable community when we talk about scams and frauds. And then on this slide, just some additional information about our presentations that we will regularly give out in the community: abuse in later life, elder abuse, domestic violence, child abuse, overview of the criminal justice system, overview of the juvenile justice system, information about sex offenses, information about our diversion and restorative justice program, victims' rights, etc. So again, I didn't want to take up too much of your time with kind of the canned presentation, but I thought it was helpful to run through that to talk about and give you a sense of what we were looking at as a community protection division. You see on the slide the information for the DA's office. Anybody that has questions or concerns can call that main number, the 3700 number right there in the middle of the screen, and ask questions, report any concerns, any complaints, ask for presentations, etc. Also, I've put my information on the slide as well. So if community members or any of you have questions or concerns, certainly feel free to reach out to me directly, either phone or email, whatever works best for you, and I'm happy to address any of that. But with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and would love to open it up to any questions that you all have about the DA's office generally, or information about the Community Protection Division and some of the services that we offer as the Community Protection Division.
Miranda, I address this one to you as town administrator. Have you worked with this team before, and under what circumstances do you reach out to them?
No, I actually haven't worked with this team before. So the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services was working on reaching out to all of the members of that organization, and the DA was listed, and this program was listed as one of the contacts. So spoke with Desiree, happened to just kind of be talking about Peak to Peak supports in general, and then we spoke a bit about Nederland and the supports that could be provided to Nederland, and that's when I learned that this presentation was available for our communities, and thought it'd be great to team it up with the same night that Boulder County Sheriff's Office came. So have not needed to contact them, but just think it's great to expose our residents and educate them on everything that is available for them.
Yeah, I have to agree. I've always thought of, you call the DA's office when you have a criminal complaint. It's not just criminal complaints. It's any number of things.
That's exactly right. I mean, certainly that's the primary function, is public safety and criminal prosecutions. But one of the fundamentals that our DA, Michael Doherty, has is really engaging the community in all areas where we can provide support. Certainly, we're not going to be an expertise have expertise in all areas, but that consumer complaint process is very important to our community members, and something that we're proud to be able to do and assist with to the extent we can. And then the big piece is really that community engagement around being open and available and providing information to the public and being there for community events, for presentations, going into schools, going into older adult facilities, et cetera. An example that I'll give you that we have just in about a week and a half, we secured a state grant to fund gun safes as part of our gun violence prevention efforts as a DA's office. And so in partnership with the state and with some local community churches and temples and with Commander Vanderleest being on, I also want to give a shout out to the Sheriff's Office. They're partnering with us. So on September 16th from 11 to 1, we have 400 gun safes that we will be able to provide for free to Boulder County residents at the Sheriff's Office parking lot, at their headquarters parking lot in East Boulder. There's 200 safes designed for handgun storage in a home and 200 safes designed for handgun storage in a vehicle, particularly because as part of our gun violence prevention efforts, we really know that a lot of gun violence or guns are being stolen from cars and being used later to perpetrate crimes. And so we want to make sure that if individuals own a gun, it's being secured safely, particularly if we're talking about in a vehicle where it can be stolen and used for later nefarious acts. So just another area and a specific example coming up in just a week and a half of ways that we're trying to engage the community and deal with issues that we see as a community besides just prosecuting. Of course, we're going to vigorously prosecute gun violence as an office, but to the extent we can engage in prevention efforts, we want to make sure we're doing that as well.
Excellent. Thanks.
Any more questions for Christian?
Thanks for doing what you do. We appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you all. And again, thank you for inviting me, and don't hesitate to reach out at any point if I can be of assistance or if the office can be of assistance.
Much appreciated. Thanks.
Thanks, Christian. I just wanted to specifically call out if anyone from the public has a question for Christian.
Sure.
Now it's time. Hearing none, thank you very much for your presentation tonight and for those things you offer to our town, our community. We appreciate it. Thanks for
Well,
being
thank
here.
you so much. It was a pleasure being here with you this evening. Great to see you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to our action item for the evening. It's comprehensive plan consultant presentations. I do want to give just a little bit of a structure to this. We have two different, oh gosh, I didn't copy and paste all of you. So we have different folks presenting to us. And so let me just, I apologize, pull that right back up. I had it in we're going to, just give me 1 second. There we go. So after we actually do want to take that break now, Miranda?
We actually don't need to. We don't need to because Norris Designs is on.
Okay, so we have Norris Design on right now, and we're going to hear the presentation, and then we're going to take a break in between their presentation and the next one.
Yeah, maybe. Do you want me to offer a so I'll just kind of share why. So Attorney Madsen, who can be with us tonight, this is non-traditional what we're doing here, having consultants come present to a board. Typically you have more of a committee who just decides and then brings it forward to you like Godot Communications. Really felt like though a comprehensive plan is it's a community plan, as are all of them, but this is kind of a larger scale community plan and really wanted to be sure that the community got to hear their presentations and the board can make this decision. However, it is the recommendation of our attorney that the consultants don't hear one another's presentations. So we have Norris Design going first. We would ask that there be a 5-minute break when Norris Design finishes and you're done asking questions. We will then invite SE Group to come on. They'll give their presentation. Norris Design, we'll take another break after SE Group so Norris Design can come back on, and then the Board of Trustees can do your vote if you so choose. So we need to allow the break so I have enough time to coordinate with each of the groups to get them on board.
Go.
Thank you. That is exactly.
Norris Design, yeah. Norris Design is already here, so originally I said we should take a break to allow Norris Design to come on, but I see that their team is all here, and I would assume ready to go, although I do maybe turn it over to them if they do need any sort of break, but otherwise I think we're good.
Can you hear me,
Elena,
Miranda?
Yes.
We do. We can hear you, Elena.
You can hear me? Awesome.
Welcome to the
hey,
meeting.
everybody.
Welcome to the meeting, and thanks for being here to present.
Thank you. I'll let Matthew's going to pull up our slides. Sweet. Thanks, Matthew. Well, good evening, everyone. Mayor Billy, Board of Trustees, Town.
Oh, you're cutting out.
We're thrilled to be here with you this evening. Am I cutting out?
You're back. You cut out for a bit. You're back. Yeah, that's probably a good idea without the video. Yeah.
Did you hear me say hi and we're so excited to be here?
Yes, that part we got.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, so Nederland is a mountain community with a vibrant spirit, and we are here tonight to talk to you about how our values align, how we can help your community achieve its strategic goals. And I want to start with introducing our team. You could see my picture, but I'm Elena Scott. I'll be the principal in charge for the comp plan. And I was fortunate to work with the town of Nederland on the comp plan in 2013. The plan won an award with the state of Colorado APA, American Planning Association, because of our focus on sustainability and community engagement. And it was so wonderful to be a part of that and to meet so many unique individuals in the town of Ned during that process. And really with this effort, we hope to continue that effort with this update. I started our mountain office in Frisco in 2008, so I've spent the last 15 years specifically focused on mountain communities and the opportunities and challenges we face, because while we're, very alike, we also have our unique challenges. And I think that living adjacent to ski areas is a challenge, affordability is a challenge, achieving our infrastructure and sustainability goals, but we're people that have worked through all of those with our clients. And so we're really happy to be here and have the opportunity to continue that relationship with you. Next up, I want to introduce Kate Berg and Matthew Siegley, also from Norris Design. Kate and Matthew are both American Institute of Certified Planners, or AICP, and Kate has spent 20 years of experience focused on comprehensive planning and long-range planning in the public sector. Before she joined Norris Design, she and I worked together when she was in the public sector, and we just enjoyed it so much that we wanted to keep it going, and now we're creating great plans throughout Colorado. Same with Matthew. Matthew's been integral in our recent comp plans with the towns of Yampa, Silverthorne, and Mount Crested Butte. And together, the three of us bring in unique experiences and a history of working together to complete your comprehensive plan, specifically to the town of Nederland. Our multidisciplinary team is mountain focused and provides comprehensive planning solutions to meet the needs of Ned. I want to introduce Jeff Moffitt with Triple Point Consulting, who's going to assist the team with economic and housing solutions, really grounding our scenario planning in reality, which is very important. And I also want to introduce Ethan Mobley with Dynamic Planning, who's going to assist the team with water planning and hazard mitigation strategies. Ethan is also joined by his coworker, Rainey, who lives in Allenspark and was a former Boulder County planner. So very mountain-specific team and a lot of experience in and around Boulder County. I want to give them a minute to introduce themselves. Jeff, would you like to start?
Yeah, thank you, Elena. Thank you, Mayor and Town Council, for considering us. It's great to be working again with Dynamic and Norris. As Elena mentioned, I've lived in Crested Butte for 24 years. I was in Seattle 10 years prior. And for all those years, I've been building data models in the application areas of community development, affordable housing, renewable energy, resource management, air service development, and many other applications. And I'm really excited not just to build and report and submit to you, come up with those what if scenarios, look at results, go back, run some different scenarios, update the model, and really, drive it around the town several times so that we can enhance the town and really benefit the people, community, and environment of Nederland. So that's my role, and thank you for the consideration.
Thank you, Jeff. Ethan, are you ready to go?
Town citizens, council members, trustees, thank you for having me today or tonight. I own Dynamic Planning Plus Science. I've been in business for over almost 10 years now. We're trying to crack the resiliency nut. So making sure that towns are safe, planning for hazards, planning for geohazards, flood hazards, earthquake, wildfire, etc. We do all kinds of modeling to understand what and who's at risk. We try to plan for those risks in comprehensive plans. I really look forward to understanding the risks associated with Nederland. I understand that there's a CWPP currently being updated. I'm really proud that you guys have an ISO rating of 4 and understand the risks associated with wildfire in your community. I've done a quick scan of your cisterns, your cistern requirements. I'm an architect, engineer, and fire protection engineer. I also have a staff of 7 with me that will help you integrate your hazards into your planning effort. I also have fire prevention staff on board. So we provide fire prevention staff augmentation for fire marshals for local communities across mountain towns like yourself. So I'm really happy to be here on the team today, and I'm really happy to support Jeff again and work with the group here that you see and love. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks to you both. Our team, all of us together with your leadership and the engagement of community stakeholders, will help guide a vision for Nederland's future. We've already created Vision 2030, and Nederland is already an inspired place. It's a place with diverse opinions, ideas, and natural resources. Our ultimate goal as your partner is to translate what we hear as a policy into a framework for sustainable growth and resiliency. Do you want to go to the next slide, Matthew? Awesome. Norris Design is really all about placemaking. As you can see, we have a multidisciplinary team that has a lot of perspectives and ideas, and it's really all about how we bring that together with our expertise in planning with your community and the specific things that we're going to hear from the stakeholders during the process. We really want to create desired, inspired places and understand the importance of creating a central business district sub-area plan, and have some experience we'll speak to later in the presentation. We know that you have 2 teams to consider for this next step, and there's a few reasons why we'd like you to select our team. One is our alignment of values. We know that Nederland has created Vision 2030, proudly maintaining the community's small town feel and distinct identity with a small is beautiful, less is more approach. We think that that is so true about Nederland, both from spending time there as visitors, but also from working with you in the past. We'll work with you and actively listen to align the vision for the community into the future with a comp plan. Another important thing at Norris Design is inspiring initiatives. We have a lot of creative people at Norris Design and in NED. We advocate for progress through empowering collective action, and also understanding that more than one thing can be true at once. How do we help the community see the places we align as the most important in items and spur initiative in those areas? We're here to make a positive impact. We want us to have a really good time doing this plan. We want to be your trusted, reliable partner in this process. And we want you to know we're experts in mountain planning and are also experts in working with you to make sure that we have the right process that's going to work for your town. We've worked with the town on both the previous comprehensive plan in 2013, and then after that, we were hired as part of a team with JV DeSouza out of Boulder for site planning at the community center. So after our last relationship, we kept working together because we just had a great time doing it. I look forward to being back at the community center with you soon and meeting some of you in person. This opportunity to update the plan will require a new partnership with us and new faces with some of the new people on the Board of Trustees, but we're excited to embark upon it. And we're excited because we're reliable. We believe in this town. We believe in the trust that we've built in the past with you, and also the trust that we've built with the communities we work with all the time. We have excellent communication, integrity, and accountability, and we're going to be here with you throughout this comprehensive plan update. In this presentation, we have a little bit of an agenda. We are going to talk a little bit about our project approach. We're going to talk about our understanding of the community. We're going to talk about some of our project examples. And ultimately, at the end of this, we really hope to have a great, robust question and answer discussion with you to end it off and cap things off, hopefully in a really positive way. Finally, why choose Norris Design? We listen and then we plan. We do a lot of comprehensive plans and we work with a lot of mountain towns. Especially this team works particularly throughout Colorado. We understand what's working in places around us, but each one of the places is special. That's why we listen and engage from the beginning. We build trust the right way. That has to do a lot with listening, which right now I'm just talking at you, so I'm sorry. I can't wait to start listening. But as an example, when I worked on the comp plan in 2013, we heard a lot of very different perspectives on NED's future, and that's why we created the givens that were established in the former plan. I don't know if you have those, if you know those very well or have them handy, but there was a bright green page in the comp plan and really established the baseline and the framework from where we were working from. That helped us build trust from all the perspectives to have this framework established from which to move forward and help people understand that we were listening to them. We think that's super important. We approach placemaking holistically. We understand the importance of NED's downtown and the sub-area planning that will work holistically with the overall comp plan, and understand that placemaking is about people and place, and that's our strength at Norris Design, bringing together the culture of place and people together and physically being able to manifest that in the future. And finally, and then you don't have to hear me talk anymore, we get to your Kate talk. We are implementation oriented. We will share some examples about our experience and how those places are moving forward or have completed implementation. We help craft plans that include executable strategies specific to you, and we can't wait to start hopefully working with you. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Kate, who will talk about our approach and project understanding.
All right, thanks for having us tonight. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my video just because that seems to make the audio work better. But at any point, if you can't hear me, just give me a shout. I am going to go ahead and cover our project understanding and approach and our plan for working collaboratively with the town as a partner in this planning effort. Matthew, could you go to the next slide, please? So first and foremost, we have a passion for comp planning. It's what we do because we really understand the important role that a comprehensive plan must serve in a community to really serve as an effective guide for future decision making and also a useful tool to help the community prioritize public investments and really effectively guide sustainable growth. And so a couple key things that we do that we ensure in every comp planning effort is the comp plan must accurately reflect the community's vision and it must be usable and provide an effective guide for implementation. Next slide, Matthew. So as far as our approach and our understanding, you know, one thing that we really want to emphasize is we want to work with you. We want to be your partner. We want to collaborate. We want to listen so that we really clearly understand the community's key issues, key concerns, key goals for the future. Based on our work, our understanding of NED and, you know, what we know at this point in time, from our perspective, you really have something that is worth protecting. The town has so much character. It is a truly unique, authentic mountain town. And it's facing tremendous growth and development pressure with the proximity to Boulder and Eldora ski area. You know, it really serves as a gateway to all the recreation in the surrounding national forest and wilderness. And with that comes so many pressures, traffic congestion, housing pressure. So as Elena mentioned, we work in mountain communities every day. We're really well versed in these issues. We see that, you know, the town of Ned really, in terms of key goals, preserving the rural rustic mountain character, preserving your incredibly beautiful natural resources and cultural resources, and ensuring that we're planning sustainably in a way that will mitigate risk, increase community resilience, and also creating a usable plan to serve as an effective guide for public investment that will most effectively help to realize the community's vision. Next slide. So as far as our overall approach, we have laid out a 3-phase schedule. If you could go to the schedule slide next. So in terms of how we approach a comprehensive planning effort, we typically break it into 3 phases. This process in response to the RFP has us initiating the planning effort in September, late September, and wrapping it up at the end of 2024. So approximately 15-month process. Phase 1 lasting for about 4 months where we're gathering information, then about an 8-month process of drafting the plan based on what we've learned from phase 1, and then a few months at the end to really fine-tune the final documents based on the input that we receive on the draft plan during phase 2. Next slide. So I'm just going to walk through kind of the highlights of each phase and just touch on a couple key things we want you to understand about our approach. But of course, as we get into questions and answers, we can certainly delve into more detail on anything that you want to know more about. Phase 1 is really an opportunity to get the word out about this project, cast a very wide net, get as many community members and stakeholders involved as possible, and just gather all the information and all the input that we need to inform the planning effort. And we understand that there's been a lot of planning happening in the community already. And so we really want to be efficient, and we want to use the information that's already been gathered through these other planning efforts, like the housing needs assessment and the multimodal transportation planning effort, the countywide, the CWPP, and all those great plans that are already underway, and really work collaboratively with the town to identify what additional information is needed. And make sure that we are developing and initiating a very robust and inclusive community engagement plan. We are very well versed in a wide range of community engagement strategies, both in person and online. And we really enjoy working collaboratively with the town to really customize, tailor and customize a community engagement approach that feels like it's the best fit for your community. We also really love doing things that are a little bit innovative and a little bit unique to really try to draw out some of those perspectives from the community that you don't always hear at a traditional community open house. So just as an example, Matthew and I went into the schools during the Yampa Comp Plan effort, and we were part of a curriculum in middle school and high school classes where we had an opportunity to teach about planning and gather input from some of the younger community members that we might not otherwise hear from, and really understand what they love about their town and what things, influence their decision about whether or not they want to continue to live in Nederland once they graduate. So that can be really helpful. And really doing a thorough analysis of all the information, all the data that we need to understand, including our economic and market analysis, water resource and hazard analysis. All that work on the front end goes into informing the plan. And so that's what we do in phase 1. Next slide. As we get into phase 2, this is where we really do the bulk of the work with our stakeholders, with the town, with specific focus groups on specific sections of the plan. And it's a very iterative process where we are drafting sections of the plan and then having an opportunity for the town, leaders, staff, key stakeholders to review what we've drafted based on what we've heard and tell us, you know, is this right? Does this fit? Give feedback, help us refine those recommended planning strategies, goals, policies, action items, and really keep the communication and the engagement open and just make sure that everyone who's involved in this plan, who needs to be involved in this plan, knows what's happening. They know where we are in the process. They are able to really see their input reflected in our planning recommendations, and they know where to go to review the materials. They know how to provide feedback. They feel seen, they feel heard, they're in the loop. So that's what we do during phase 2. And then as we move into the final stages of the plan, we're really kind of refining what we've drafted during phase 1 with you know, guidance from the steering committee and the town staff, the board of trustees, the planning commission, and getting ourselves to our final deliverables. And this planning effort is really going to be pretty robust in that at the end of the overall planning effort, the town is going to have kind of 4 key documents, 3 plans, an updated comprehensive plan, a sub-area plan for the central business district, and an updated 3-mile plan, as well as some very targeted, thoughtful, recommended updates to the land use code and the town's design guidelines. So those will be kind of the final deliverables at the end of the planning effort. And just to close out kind of our overall approach, we really just want to emphasize that when we approach a project like this, we're really looking to work with you to engage the community and to collaborate in order to, you know, be very responsive to the unique needs and the direction that's needed to serve the town of Nederland. As we mentioned, you know, we're very well versed in a very diverse range of community engagement strategies, and we can work with the town at the outset of the project to customize and tailor our community engagement plan as appropriate to be as effective as possible. And so we've identified here kind of the highlights of what's included in our current proposal as far as the range of engagement strategies that we can offer. But certainly nothing here is set in stone. We find that it helps to go out into the community and talk with people where they are. But we certainly have the ability to utilize a broad range of both online and in-person outreach techniques. We can use the Engage Nederland site. We can make it very interactive and make sure that that project webpage is up and running and being utilized effectively throughout the planning effort, as well as, you know, some of these other tools that we've suggested that could be a good fit for NED. And with that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Elena and Matthew to talk a little bit more about some of our specific capabilities and experience that will help serve the town in Nederland during this planning effort.
Thanks, Kate. So coming into the NED comp plan, we have a variety of recent relevant experience that we can leverage. And our ultimate goal is to work with the town in order to create a plan that responds to the community's needs while also identifying potential opportunities and really capitalizing on those. One recent project that we wanted to experience and highlight here was the Town of Yampa Comprehensive Plan, which was recently completed. And really it has a lot of similar characteristics and had some similar conversations ongoing at the time that we joined the effort to some of the conversations that NED is having at the same time. So it had a historic downtown. It's a resort adjacent site that was experiencing a lot of growth pressure, but also understood the need to support its local businesses through housing opportunities and through new infrastructure and amenities. So it was kind of finding that right balance of additional growth and opportunity while also maintaining that existing character. So really to address these issues in a comprehensive manner, we worked with a variety of stakeholders. We worked closely with staff to tailor a community engagement experience that would capitalize on the town's preferred methods and the opportunities where we could hear the most voices. We also provided multiple opportunities for plan review throughout the process. So it was this iterative conversation that we were having with members of the public. And then ultimately, we were able to gather a lot of consensus for the completed plan because we worked with the community to come up with some middle ground solutions. For instance, finding that right intensity of development and providing some opportunities to enhance the amenities and the infrastructure while still maintaining the essence of the community. I'm going to turn it over to Elena to talk about a couple of other recent efforts that we were involved in.
Thanks, Matthew. Can you guys hear me now? I think so. All right. In Gypsum, it's really between Avon, Beaver Creek, and Glenwood. Completed the plan in 2017, and Gypsum's a community really full of grit. They are a resilient community, a lot of blue-collar workers, very common sense, and they're very grounded in that. As part of the comprehensive plan, we also created a downtown plan. And specifically, one of the areas for the downtown plan that we're implementing right now is called the Market District. This area focused on walkability, infill development, and also economic alignment with what the town can support. And this is a really important thing and why we have our important multidisciplinary partners on our team with Jeff. But what's the economic viability of actually creating this infill development, and how do we support it and build it into the future? After the comp plan, the town actually created design guidelines, updated their code, and then created a public-private partnership application. And that's the application we're currently doing with a landowner that put all the land together in order to create this actual district and bring it to fruition. So pretty exciting to see that within the past 5 years, we're potentially moving this market district forward. And the next slide is about downtown Lafayette in Boulder County. I'm sure you're all familiar with Lafayette. This was a collaboration with the Urban Renewal Authority to identify a vision for a public road. It's a mile-long road. And people were really focused on some of the wrong things with this plan. So our goal was really to refocus them in on sense of place and what it is about Lafayette that made them special. We came down to 3 words that describe them that helped to influence our placemaking, and that was diverse, creative, and eclectic. And that helped them to reevaluate all their planning tools to understand how to really create a really much better approach to infill development. And now they have a very successful downtown. This is about 12 years ago that we started this, working with the Urban Renewal Authority, and we're really proud to have seen the creative land use that's happened with the ways to revitalize some of the existing structures and just how successful it is. They also have a super rad brewery, which you've probably been to, so that also helps. But it wasn't there before we came in and helped them with the plan and helped ground them in their vision. And so wanted to show an array of some of our projects that spans quite a few years of time, and something that I've been involved in each and every one of these plans. Next slide.
So in addition to some of the project experience that you just heard about, we also bring direct experience in some of these areas that the town has identified as important to the plan's success. We work closely with regional partners and collaborate with them throughout the process, whether those partners are the Forest Service or the county government or RTD. We engage them in the conversation. Also experienced facilitators. And since we're local to the area, we found that we have success connecting with members of the community and building relationships that effectively allows us to gain insights from what the community has to say. We work frequently in small mountain towns And so we support them with a lot of the same conversations and some of the same issues and growth pressures that NET is seeing. And then we also have a broad experience, range of experience working on both public and private plans. So in the Boulder County area alone, we have a range of experience on both sides of the table, and we'll bring that. And then finally, we'll bring all of our available tools. We understand CIPs and municipal budgeting, and then we have assembled a team that specializes in growth management as well as hazard assessment and water analysis. So we'll bring all of these skills to the table. And then Kate is going to close us out here.
Sorry, I just realized I was muted. So I will go ahead and repeat that. Oh, hold on just a second. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Give me just one moment. Okay, there we go. Well, in closing, we just wanted to emphasize the approach that we have laid out and the values that we've articulated as far as who we are as planners, as professionals, as people who live and work in mountain towns and love mountain towns. We're here. We really want to work with you. We want to be your partner. We want to make this a huge success. We want to have fun doing it. We really understand intimately the challenges that mountain towns are facing. And we feel that we're very skilled in developing creative, community appropriate planning solutions. And so we really want to bring that to this project and help to make this comprehensive plan update a huge success that will really serve as an effective guide for the town of Nederland moving forward over the next 10 to 15 years. Really help to prioritize investments and serve as a really usable document that's easily understandable and executable and can guide implementation in a way that helps the community really maintain what's most important in the face of some pretty strong pressures. And we always talk about, we always talk with folks who really don't want things to change, and we understand that, but we have to plan for that because no is a choice. And if we don't want certain things to happen in our communities, we have to do a really good job articulating what we don't want just as much as what we do, and then laying out a good plan to preserve and protect the things that are most important to us. Thank you so much for your time. We're really excited to be a part of this and grateful for the opportunity. And we would love to answer any questions that you have and expand upon anything that you'd like to know more about.
Thank you all for that presentation. Any questions from the trustees? Another minute here. Any questions or comments from the trustees?
Comments. I appreciate the layout of your proposal very much. I thought it was logical, even the way you put your pricing table together and people's skill set. I really appreciate your experience. You've done a lot of mountain work, and you've done some Boulder County work too. So sounds like a really well-balanced team, a great approach. And thanks for putting this together. This makes sense to me.
Thanks, Tom. Any other comments or questions from the board? Jesse?
Yeah, I have a quick comment. One of our interest is building the results of our updated plan into our code. Can you guys speak to that process at all? If we kind of realized that our last comprehensive plan, while it was good and it won awards, it wasn't necessarily built into our code or coupled into our code. So is that something that would be involved in your efforts would that be something that would come next? Maybe it's a question for Miranda. Just curious to hear any comments on that step in the process.
Elena,
I
did
think
you?
that,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Sure, thanks, Jesse. With the last plan, we were coming out of the recession, and so we had a pretty grassroots effort in that plan. And there's probably some additional things that we would have spent a lot more time on if we could have had a different situation at hand. With our other plans that we've been talking about, for example, in Yampa, in Gypsum, in Silverthorne, and in the other one in Lafayette, when I worked on that in 2011, all of those led to pretty robust code changes. And so I think it was a matter of the timing in which the adoption occurred and kind of where we were in the overall market. And I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but I would tell you that we have that built into this project approach to help identify any code changes that you would need to make in order to move this forward. That's part of our process.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing I'll add to that is part of the overall approach includes evaluating the existing land use code and the existing design guidelines to identify any inconsistencies and identify, specifically what recommended changes we want to articulate, that should be made through a code update, code amendment, and amendments to those design guidelines to ensure that, those regulatory documents will align with the desired vision that's communicated in the plan.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the presentation and your efforts and your willingness to come meet with us and present.
Thank you.
Any other questions for this team?
Well done, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, my only comment, yeah, it's Ethan. Glad to see what you bring to the table with the resiliency and all the things we need to consider. Be keenly aware of now and into the future with mitigation and proper planning to help our town, thrive well into the future with unforeseen things that could happen. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. Having Ethan on the team is a real asset. And we saw the importance of all of that in not only the RFP, but also in your strategic goals for 2024. And so, we wanted to bring a really good team to the table for you for this effort. We know how important it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Are there any more questions? For the public, just so you know, public, we'll wait after both presentations and then we will have a full-on public comment session then. So keep your notes. Well, thanks a bunch. I think at this point we will go ahead and take a 3 to 5 minute break. Give you guys time to log out for a bit and then bring in SE and then we'll bring you back a little later.
Elena, Ethan, and team, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you again soon. Miranda, let us know what you need from us.
I think just a 5-minute break and let the other consultants know they can go ahead and jump on. So just a quick, I told them to be here by 8:40, 8:42.
8:42 it is, everyone. We'll
All right.
Thank you.
Trustee Corvalon, I just wanted to confirm that's you who joined us.
Yep.
Okay, great. And I'm sorry I didn't have the participant list up. Do you happen to recall what time so we can note it in the minutes?
It was around 8.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Hi, Gabby. Hi. Sorry, I can't hear you. You were
Sorry, I was
muted,
on
but
mute. Can you hear me
I
now?
don't have camera. Yeah, and apologies. It's Miranda. I don't have camera, so I don't have a camera working in my computer. But I think if your team's here, assuming Mayor Billy's back, are you waiting for anyone else?
Yep. Cheney Bostic just jumped on. I see her. Cheney, can you test your volume?
Testing, testing.
Sounds
You're
good.
Can you hear
good.
me?
And Carly from Fair and Piers is also going to join us tonight.
Fabulous. Hi, Carly.
Looks like she's still logging on. Mark is in Vermont, and it was a little past his bedtime.
Well, thank you for joining us so late. We really appreciate it. But I'll turn it over to Mayor Billy, and he can get us back on track meeting-wise.
Thanks, Miranda. Thank you. Thank you folks for joining us from the SE group, and go ahead and just have you present to us and why you want to help us with our comp plan. And then after you're done, we'll bring Norris Design back and we'll talk about it then. But we'll go ahead and we'll have you guys present, and then we as the trustees will ask you questions now with public comment later on when the other groups back.
Okay. Do you have a specific time limit in mind? Miranda gave me a little bit of parameters, but I just want to make sure I know you have other agenda items too. So if you give me a time limit, I'll stick to it.
You know, we hadn't lined it out, but what's your best guess on how much time you need?
We'll try not to go over 30, but we're also happy to take questions. So we'll try to stick to 30.
That sounds about.
Okay, let me just make sure that I'm gonna get my presentation into full screen mode and then share, and I want to make sure you all can see it, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'm not as familiar with the WebEx as
we see
some of the other ones. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great.
Nice photo.
Okay, well, we'll get started. Thank you so much for inviting us to present our ideas for your comprehensive plan update. I'm joined tonight by Cheney Bostic of Studio Seed and Carly Seif of Fair and Piers, and we will talk about our team and why we think we're the best fit and some of our ideas for this project. So our team, we have the SE group team. I would be the project manager for this project, and I'm based up in Leadville, Colorado, and then our principal in charge, Mark Kane. He worked on the 2013 plan, so he has put a lot of brainstorming into this, and he would be delighted to be the principal in charge on the second iteration of this. And I'm joined by Cheney Bostic and Carly Seif. If you want, I have some room for you to talk a little about your firms, but if you want to just identify yourselves now. You're on my second screen. I want to be able to see you all on the same screen, but I have like multiple pages going here. So if you don't know about SE Group, we're a fairly small planning and design firm that is about 60 years old, and we We're lucky in that we get to work in some of our country's most beautiful locations. Our company was founded designing ski resorts in New Hampshire 60 years ago. And since then, we've expanded to basically any communities that have skiing. So we have specialties in community planning and design, which most of tonight our team will be from that discipline. We also have resort planners and designers, recreation planners and designers. We do a lot of trails plans, forest service management plans, environmental impact statements, specifically for recreation projects. And we also have landscape architects. And so we think this blend of expertise really brings a lot to these types of projects. Nederland is nestled, minutes from Eldora. It's surrounded by public lands. So it's really one of the reasons why we were really excited to apply for this project. Cheney, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Cheney Bostic with Studio Seed. We're based in Golden, Colorado. I started the firm in 2018. I've been in Colorado for 17 years doing urban design and planning. My background is in architecture, so we love to look at historic downtowns. Downtowns and historic contexts are actually our specialty. And we love to work in these types of communities, smaller mountain town, kind of hip, grungy, all of the unique places of Colorado, of which I would consider Nederland very unique. So we have a lot of recent Colorado Mountain Town in purple are the projects, and we'll talk a little bit more about these, but our team that's here tonight has worked together on. So Minturn, we have very similar experience based on the scope of work that you presented, also in Westvale and Fruita, currently working in Salida, Idaho Springs, Glenwood Springs, and also have experience in Silverton and Frisco. Also very familiar with Boulder County. I know that was requested in the RFP, so I just wanted to point it out. I also have experience working in Boulder County as well, and so I'm familiar with the context and surrounding.
And just this image on the screen right now is a visualization of that key intersection as you're coming into Minturn from the north, where the downtown starts and the river takes a turn around that bend. And I just want to, hype Cheney up a little bit that she just creates such beautiful images to show both the vision of the plan, inspire, but also she's incredibly practical in terms of how the urban design is implemented through zoning standards and really customizes her work for the type of community and the client community. Go ahead, Carly.
My name is Carly Seif. I'm at Firm Peers. We're a transportation planning and engineering firm. We have 15 offices all over the country. I lead our Boulder office. So Boulder County resident. I love living working where I live and play here. This is my backyard. So really excited about the opportunity to help make it safer, improve transportation and mobility in net and connections regionally as well. So Firm Peers has been around for now 36 years. We've only done transportation in that time. So we decided to really focus in on the one thing that we love and build that practice in transportation. So we do a lot of front range work. We also do a ton of mountain resort town work. So a lot of the communities that Gabby and Cheney named, we're doing Vail's Transportation Master Plan now, Winter Park, working in Crested Butte on their transit plan. Obviously Minturn as well, Fruita, we did their transportation plan. So you name it, we've worked across the state and really love working in these gateway communities that are the access and kind of the entry points to recreation is one of our niches. And we have a whole research group that does recreation and gateway planning. We also were just awarded the Transportation Mobility Plan for Nederland. So really excited and anxious to get that started. And I'll talk later on about some of the efficiencies and opportunities to leverage that experience.
Great, thank you, Carly. So like Cheney mentioned, the three firms that let me go back one. We've worked together a lot, and Fair and Piers is a larger transportation firm. They can pull from a deep bench to be experts, but SE Group is a fairly small firm, and so is Studio Seed. And so we really like to team up so that we can all bring our strengths to a project such as this. And we really provide, really hands-on, intimate collaboration with our clients. We don't do more than a handful of projects per year. And so we really are picky about what types of projects we go after and really want to work closely with our clients and in the kind of places and the types of communities that we have the most passion for. So like Cheney mentioned, the 3 projects we might highlight as our best examples of work together are the City of Fruita Comprehensive Plan, the Westvale Master Plan, and the Town of Minturn Community Plan and Downtown Design Guidelines. And just some things about our team is that, especially with this downtown sub-area plan that we're thinking about doing here, we love a plan within a plan. We think it's really cool to, focus on one area, but tie it to the bigger picture of the vision of the community and have some efficiencies gained and some collaboration on the engagement. We really like collaborating with our clients on the best type of engagement that's going to work in your community and figuring out what tools in our toolbox to choose at any given time to make the biggest impact. And we really like creative solutions for small towns. There's a lot of similarities. We can bring case studies, we can bring ideas, but at the same time, every client community is so unique and has its own little flavor of characters and criteria and all these different things going on. And so we really like to think creatively about the solutions that are going to work best for you. So we think, we're a really good fit to work with your community. We have a lot of experience with mountain communities. SE Group did the 2013 Nederland Comp Plan, and I was not working at SE Group at that time, but some of our colleagues that did work on that are still around, and I've been mining their brains for some input. And as far as I know, I've heard that it's a well-respected plan. It might be a little more philosophical in nature about integrating sustainability throughout all Netherlands departments and goals, but that there's a lot of good stuff to bring from that plan forward, and at the same time recognizing that 10 years, a lot has changed in 10 years, and we want to bring some fresh perspective to the project as well. Some of the trends that we notice and that we want to keep our eye to the ground on are that, a lot of the communities we work with have a balance of resident needs and visitor needs, and those are often not the same. And so thinking through how we approach that, there's some effects of seasonality. You have busy periods in the summer and busy periods in the winter. And then, something that we've been thinking about, especially on the transportation side, is that you're a small rural community with not that many staff members, but you have rural resources, but you have the impacts of an urban area. You have the cities close by with lots of traffic coming in and lots of visitors, and thinking through that dynamic and how to best capitalize on visitors and their economic and spending power, but also trying to mitigate the impacts on your natural resources, on your full-time residents. And then I also want to recognize that Nederland is surrounded by Forest Service lands, and with that comes a lot of responsibility with wildfire mitigation and recreation and wildlife, and working with federal land agencies, and we're excited to help you navigate that as well. As for our community engagement approach, we think it's important to reach out to all different types of residents, but also think of, there's property owners that may not be there all the time. They like to chime in for these types of projects, how to handle them, and then also how to deal with other visitors and then other large landowners, like the resort, which I know that's outside of the town boundary, but still kind of big partners in the region. So to expand a little bit more on our community engagement approach, these are some of the tools that we would like to use in this project. You have a Bang the Table platform already that seems to be what you use for a lot of your engagement. So we would have customized monthly updates there. We like to do some deep dive stakeholder interviews and questionnaires to get some thoughts on all the different topics. We would envision some topic area workshops, probably on some of the 2 or 3 of the issues that seem to be the most hot button issues, whether that's housing or hazard mitigation or whatever comes up. We like to have some workshops around that. We would envision some open houses and formal presentations. And then also utilizing like what works in your community. Is it the radio station? Is it the coffee shop? Is it people that are really engaged and can get their neighbors out to meetings? You know, we'll work with you to figure out what the best approach is. And then we want to work with the Planning Commission and you, the BOT, the Board of Trustees, to make sure we're on the same page of this project throughout the whole way. You know, you're not going to see our ideas at the 11th hour and not know what you're getting yourself into. We want to make sure, you know, whether that's through Miranda or through, you know, board updates every couple months, we want to make sure that you're engaged in the process and you're on board each step of the way. So I don't want to take up our presentation time to review the whole scope of work. We went into that in detail in the proposal, but I just want to highlight the main elements. We broke it into 4 tasks: project management, stakeholder community engagement, research analysis, and plan development. But other things that are going to come up throughout the plan are this list on the right. How are we going to fit the downtown plan, the downtown sub-area plan within this project? We would love to bring a scenario thinking or scenario approach, which is kind of saying there's almost like a do nothing option or full development, or if you choose a policy pathway, how would things play out? I think that's a really important way to think through these decisions. We think it's important to revisit the vision and see if that sustainability themed vision that the last plan was all about is still important to this community. And I have a feeling that it might be. But at the same time, like from the conversations I've had and the research I've done, it seems like the town is interested in some more practical solutions this time around, you know, audits to your zoning code and how to fix some of the problems or react to some of the impacts that have come up over the last couple of years. So I'm happy to go into that more in the Q&A if my hunch is wrong or if you want to explore that further. Here are just some examples of project deliverables that might occur during this project. These are examples of some scenario planning for housing or some surveys with QR codes and public engagement boards. We like to really create a customized brand identity for our materials that really feel authentic to the town of Nederland and are really engaging for your residents. And at the end of the day, we like to produce beautiful plans that are going to be, you know, artful with some design, and they really inspire you to move forward. We also want to make sure they're informative, that they educate why you're doing the things you're doing and where do these policy decisions come from. And then we want them to be accessible, you know, really organized, easy to read, actionable for your board and your staff members. There's been a trend in the last couple of years where we've seen a lot of turnover in our clients, whether it's their planning commissions or their councils or their staff members. And in a way, a comprehensive plan can be a living history of why a community is making the decisions that they are, whether that, you know, it's 5 years in the future or 5 years in the past, so that when a new planning commission member comes in or a new council member or board of trustee member comes in, they're like, oh, wow, okay, this document helps me understand why we're making these decisions, and then gives me a foundation to help make those decisions as an elected or appointed official in the future. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cheney to talk a little bit more about the downtown sub-area plan and her ideas for that.
Thanks, Gabby. So yeah, we wanted to spend some time on the CBD sub-area plan. It was listed as a specific deliverable, and so we find that the downtowns in these communities are a critical growing pain. There's a lot of discussion around growth and how to maintain character and add housing. We know you're thinking about that. And we think that the sub-area plan could be a great starting point, certainly front-loaded, because it is the heart of the community and people come out to you know, address their concerns and their dreams for their downtown, because it's very tangible and the size and scale of it. So just a little bit about the process there. We would look at, you know, the current rules and regulations, which we've started to dig in. We understand that housing is currently not allowed in the CBD zone district. And you're probably thinking about changing that with all of the housing policies and grants out there and housing needs assessment going on. Setbacks are less restricted, so more urban forms can be created, and that the standards and guidelines apply. It was also mentioned about the thinking about expanding the boundary of the CBD. And so just looking at the map to the right, neighborhood commercial is in the light pink area. And so currently, again, looking at what's allowed, commercial is more restricted in this area, but residential is less restricted. The guidelines don't apply. And then general commercial to the north and south. Commercial is less restricted, so more commercial is allowed. Housing is also not allowed here, but the guidelines don't apply. And we think those areas, those two districts, are where you're going to probably look at expanding the boundaries. So we wanted to think about pros and cons of that, and we would obviously discuss this with the community, and then go through visioning, thinking about what are the placemaking opportunities, housing or ability for infill development. You have lots of water features and floodways and floodplains to deal with. So there's a lot of constraints as well as opportunities, but really visioning the future of the downtown with the community. And then on top of that, we want to coordinate with the DDA and the comprehensive plan process. Obviously, as Gabby said, it will end up being a plan within a plan, but we think that the downtown sub-area, the central business district sub-area, could really kickstart some of these conversations and influence the rest of the community plan update. Next slide. So we're going to walk through some of the case studies and the projects recently that we've worked on. The Minturn project was very similar in scope and character and context to Nederland. We did a 100 block sub area plan. So the 100 block is their downtown, same scale. It's about, 3 blocks long along Main Street. It's got a river. It's got really tiny unpaved streets. So lots of commonalities, but we looked at as well here, encouraging a mix of uses. So we talked a lot about with the community and stakeholders because residential also wasn't allowed in their zoning. And what we came up with was a compromise to have ground floor active uses, and we regulate that, but also allowing residential on upper floors to help solve the housing crisis and bring vibrancy to the downtown. Embracing the river was a key priority. Maintaining the historic character was a major priority, and we worked long and hard and actually went through design standards and guidelines and updated the document, which will show you some information about that. We also worked with Carly addressing circulation, parking, and multimodal access in this tight historic district, gateways, maintaining views. So we see a lot of similarities in the Minturn plan as well as Minturn in Nederland. Next slide. So we also updated the design standards and guidelines and created a 100 block design standards and guidelines document that was adopted by council. There was actually a moratorium on development. So this was sort of an emergency ordinance that was going on at the same time as the community plan update. And this is just an image showing how we use visualization. We actually used a live model, 3D model in the outreach that we did for the design standards. And I think we had like over 50 attendees on a virtual survey. which was great for that size of a community. People were really interested and engaged, and we could show them different alternatives and really iterative process with the community to come up with the final design standards. Next slide. And then just to show you what the final deliverable document looked like, we encourage you to read and look at this document as well, but just showing you how we actually proposed this as an ad service. We know it wasn't requested in the scope, but this is something that we can do to add value. And if it is an urgent need to address and really get the guidelines and standards updated, we can certainly assist with that. But these were just some graphics of the result of the document that came from Minturn, and very similar issues. Once again, I'll keep going. West Vale Center is another one. This was Studio Seed focused on the commercial center. So we came up with some scenarios for reevaluating the commercial center, which is very more suburban style development now. And this is one of the last redevelopment opportunities in Vail. I know this is a very different context, but it is Vail's commercial local center. And so people cared a lot about it and came out to work with us on scenarios. And so we wanted to, in the plan, this is again a plan within a plan. It maintains the purpose of the commercial center to serve locals. So we have lots of policies around making sure that essential businesses are there. Maintaining a grocery store as an anchor was a very important aspect, and expanding opportunities to add resident housing so people that live and work in Vail can afford to live there full time. And then expanding opportunities for placemaking and community gathering, and again, working with Carly on circulation, parking, and multimodal access.
Great, thank you.
Next slide.
Well, last one.
And Fruta, again, there were some commonalities here. They wanted to expand downtown. We introduced this idea of sub areas so that they still have the downtown core along Aspen Avenue, but we're also kind of reaching out and addressing zoning and land use to expand the downtown feel. We looked at corridors coming into downtown and addressing, enhancing those corridors and gateways, addressing the scale of development in downtown, and prioritizing infill development to add housing. That was a critical element that came out of Fruta. So they really upped their policies for infill development to increase housing supply in their town. So that might be a similar threat as well.
Okay, thanks, Janie. We're going to wrap up with Carly providing some of her expertise.
Thanks, Abby. So the transportation element within a comprehensive plan is really important. This is a little bit different than doing a transportation plan at the same time as a comprehensive plan, which kudos to you guys is great. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to collaborate both on the outreach and the content, but thinking about transportation specifically in the context of land use is a really important factor when you make decisions, especially if you take a scenario planning approach that Gabby talked about. So there's a few implications of that. The first is thinking about density as it relates to transit and the NB stops and future transit opportunities as well. So you really want to have as many people living and working within this walk buffer of bus stops as possible. And also thinking about the growth and the capacity of your transportation network. So as you propose scenarios for increasing density, increasing mixed use, and growth, can the transportation network afford that amount of increased demand in the network? So we think not just about the number of trips generated, but we think about what mode those people will take and how can we make recommendations, programs, policies, and infrastructure recommendations to shift modes away from single occupancy vehicles to walking, biking, and transit. So I'll talk about that in the next slide, but this is just goes to show the importance of linking those decisions and making informed land use and density and zoning decisions, thinking about transportation, and that arrow goes in both directions as well. And then efficiencies with doing the transportation mobility plan alongside the comprehensive plan and having team members that are linked on both of those different efforts. So outreach fatigue is real, and doing your housing needs assessment recently as well. It's a small town. They've already done one survey. They don't understand, well, how is this survey different? I already answered your survey. So really important opportunity to kind of pair these outreach efforts and for the community to understand how everything is linked together. And there'll be a lot of findings through the TMP as well that we want to make sure that the data, the research, the analysis and recommendations is all able to efficiently and kind of in a streamlined approach be able to inform and be informed by the comprehensive plan. So the next slide goes into some of the scope elements of the transportation side. So regional travel patterns are key. If we think about the number of people that both live and work in Nederland, that number is small. And then as Gabby said, visitorship and the travel patterns of visitors are very peaky. And this is a really important consideration. So we want to understand travel patterns for commuters as well as visitors. Where are people coming from? What time, days of week are those demands? So using available data, and if interested, we have a subscription to big data using location-based cell phone data. We can better understand these travel patterns to inform priorities and recommendations. So that's an important kind of baseline piece of information to inform our recommendations. The next piece is a parking analysis. So as Cheney mentioned, we did this in Minturn. We've also done this in Frisco and Glenwood Springs. We just did Golden's parking study. So parking is one of our core service areas. It's really important to collect data at the right time. So working with you all to understand those peak parking demand times and describe the parking problem. Or is there a parking problem? So first step is collecting utilization data and then thinking about with future growth, increased demand, potential changes in mode shift and travel patterns. What do we expect that parking demand to be in the future? How are we going to forecast that out? And then what parking management strategies can we recommend to change demand from single occupancy vehicle and that demand for parking to demand for walking, biking, transit, carpooling? And how can we start to create that shifts? And with every transportation management strategy, how are we moving the needle in reducing parking demand? So Fair and Purist has done national research for a lot of different research agencies and institutes to inform these policies and understanding of the implication of different strategies on, we call it vehicle miles traveled or VMT. And then multimodal recommendations. So we have a core team at Fair and Purist that just focuses on transit, understanding how transit fits into that broader service area, the multimodal network. So exciting that you've had such success with the HESI shuttle. The TMP is going to be looking at other opportunities for hiking shuttles, but we also want to think about regional connections through RTD. So how can we kind of better understand what's worked well in the transit options that you have available today, and how can we recommend enhancements within those? And then again, that land use intersect with transit. And then lastly, walking and biking. So you have limited resources. What are the strategic locations where we want to invest in upgrading your existing resources, upgrading your existing bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to really move the needle in places that are important to the community, which are going to be things like safety and sustainability, but making sure we hear from the community what those priorities are, and we're able to prioritize investments in that multimodal network accordingly.
Thanks, Carly. So to just wrap up, I wanted to say thank you so much for inviting us to present tonight. We would be delighted to bring our expertise to the town of Nederland and work with you all on this really important project. And with that, we're happy to take questions and answers, and I will stop sharing.
Thank you all. Appreciate that presentation. Very thorough and liked it. I liked it. I want to open it up to questions and comments from the trustees right now. Any comments, questions? I have, what was the role? You said that the principal worked on our 2013 comp plan. What was his role in that?
I believe he was managing the project at the time.
Okay. Thank you. John, Tom, questions, comments?
Yeah,
And Jesse?
one quick one on Minturn. What are some of the things that's such a similar sized town with some similar sized issues. What were some of the takeaways from that project that would be useful here?
One of the things I'm thinking about, and please follow Cheney or Carly after I share this initial thought, is we did some interesting workshops with their planning commission and board around, the value of commercially taxed buildings versus residentially taxed buildings versus mixed use. And so, for example, Minturn has very few commercial lodging opportunities. They have a handful of Airbnbs, but they're pretty strict in their short-term rental regulations. So they actually don't have that many Airbnbs. And their downtown is so small that their tax revenue, their sales tax revenue is pretty small. And they also, their commercially taxed value is relatively low. And so even though, property values are pretty high, their municipal revenues are fairly slim. So we really thought through like what are the best land use decisions, both from a character standpoint and land use standpoint, but also from a municipal revenue standpoint of, if there are key investments that Minturn wants to make in the future, they need to bring in more money to make those investments, whether that was, better sidewalks or some transportation investments, et cetera. And so we really thought about all of those in an interrelated way. And I think that there's a lot of parallels there to your downtown in Nederland.
I do too. Which one of you lives up in Leadville?
I'm in Leadville.
Okay. Have you done any work up there?
We have. We did a housing site analysis through a DOLA project last year, analyzing 3 sites for new affordable housing development. I've dabbled in projects here and there, but sometimes it's best to keep sometimes the personal and the professional with a little bit of a barrier. You get a little too involved and invested sometimes.
It sure has blossomed nicely, though. I'm really impressed. I usually, if I'm going to that part of the state, I usually make it a point to stop in Leadville.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed quite a bit. There's some new neighborhoods. There's a lot of new businesses. So I think there's some parallels between Leadville and Minturn, and maybe if we win the project, we can talk about that more at length.
And parking is going to be, I'm really glad to hear that you brought that up, that skill set. Because I think it's going to be integral with whatever we do here. What's your process for getting the information that you need? And I presume we'd run it in parallel.
Yeah, for sure. So the first step is to work with you all and identify the peak days. So we've got good rules of thumb. We don't want the worst day of the year. You're not planning for Black Friday, which is not Netherlands peak, but 4th of July weekend. But you do want to understand some of the top 10 days for parking demand. So we go out Saturday afternoon, beautiful summer day, count the cars in the study area so we can identify together what that is. So that's going to be both a combination of on-street as well as some of your off-street lots. And we'll do that 3 times during those peak days, the AM, midday, and PM. And then in our slide, there was a utilization map. So we visualize it by how many blocks and what lots do we have over 85% capacity? That's that magic number that's considered full, or your parking capacity has been met. What lots are between 85 and 65, or what blocks, and then what blocks and lots are less than 65%. So this helps define what is the parking problem. Is it only on weekends and the worst of the worst? Is it just on your average Tuesday afternoon? And then we start to understand what parking management strategies can we deploy. Are you interested in increasing parking supply? That's the big one. Let's first also think about what we call transportation demand management strategies, things like eco passes. So in transit, you've already within a neighborhood eco pass area, so free transit's a great one. How can you expand access to RTD? Increase shuttles for that first last mile connections. Changing parking pricing is a big one. So those sticks and carrots. So we explore all the sticks and carrots for parking, and then if that doesn't get us to solving this parking problem and thinking about supply. And then we'll help you inform where is the best location for parking. Should it be priced? Should it be time limited? and how can we create that environment and feel, and that's where Cheney and Gabby come in.
Yeah.
So I'm more the planner engineer thinking quantitatively, and then Cheney and Gabby kind of thinking about the character of the community and how can we kind of solve your parking problem in a way that continues to reinforce Netherlands' character. So when you asked about lessons learned from Minter, and a big one was they thought they had a really big parking problem. It turns out there are a few blocks of on-street parking. No one was using the lot. Everyone was driving through Main Street looking for that
Right.
on-street parking. So similar problem as you guys have in First. You've got a couple lots. What wayfinding and kind of information sharing can we use to get people to park in those lots and not be cruising for parking on street? And that will help your safety problem as well as your congestion problem. So it really is all linked. And glad you asked about parking because it's kind of at the epicenter of all of it.
Yep, cool. Then question on the sub plan for downtown. There's a lot of different firms pulling together here. Who would be primarily focused on that, on the downtown plan?
That would be Studio Seed.
Great. And walk me through your process just briefly, how you go about it. It's not a real big downtown, but I think we're not using it real well.
Yeah, so that's why I think it would be a good kickstart to the community plan. If it is a high priority, we can talk through that. But just because it is the heart of the community and people are so familiar with, downtown, everybody uses it and is familiar with it, we could start to talk about, larger community issues, but at a scale that's tangible. So, talking about downtown and really establishing the values and looking at what's allowed. One of the first things we do in all of these communities that we talked about is model. So I use those 3D modeling software very readily for all these projects, but modeling what your existing zoning allows. And even though it may not seem like a lot, you've got a 35-foot height limit and these things, once you model it with the setbacks and everything, it can be it can be eye-opening. You might realize, wait, what? You could do that on that lot? So it's really important to understand what's allowed currently and then kind of reverse engineer. Okay, well, what's wrong with that? And what do we want to be? If infill development does happen, what do we want it to look like? And look at pictures from other communities. And we do what we call a visual preference survey, which is always very fun for community members, picking different aspects and elements of design that they like and would like to replicate for Nederland. And then kind of reverse engineering everything back into creating the downtown vision and then updating your design standards and guidelines to make sure that it can become a reality.
Cool. Colleagues?
Any other trustees? What questions do you have?
I just have a question about any process that you guys might provide in terms of translating the outcome of the plan into our code. Or do you make
So we have
recommendations?
we have in the scope of work a code audit to see, highlight the sections that we think need improvement or that need to be flagged for recommendations. Is there a plan to do a code rewrite after the comp plan? Because there's a lot of times that's the order of events. So if that's the case, we want to make sure that you're set up for success and that you have, flagged high priority sections for rewrites and the vision of what needs to be changed, so that when you start that code rewrite, the homework is already done, and so you can really hit the ground running on that. And so we would have that be part of the land use or housing section, is kind of the plan, the code audit highlights and any recommendations there. And we want to make sure to tie it to the engagement and tie those recommendations to all the other topic areas. So if there's like parking standards, for example, or other things that come up, the code addresses everything. So we want to make sure make sure that we set you up for success in a future code rewrite.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking that, Jesse. John, you have any questions, or Tanya or Nicole?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Billy. I did actually have a really quick question. Gabby, have you guys, by the way, what's been done with Minturn and Lions is nothing short of amazing over the last decade. I really feel that those two towns have really taken advantage of a great economy, and the situation that Lions has dealt with regard to the floods of 2013 and their recovery since then has been nothing short of pretty amazing. It'd be great to have something like a Minturn Mile in Nederland as well from Eldora. But a question that I can't help asking is, have you guys ever done work with towns during or upon the middle of or at the brink of a recession? And if so, are there any pivots that we should be aware of that we might be sort of prepared for ahead of time, were that to be the case? I don't think anybody has a crystal ball, but it might not be bad to think in that direction for the next maybe 5 or so years. So that, just out of curiosity, it's easy to grow and it's easy to beautify a town in a time of excess, but when scarcity starts to rear its head, just curious if there's something that we should maybe be prepared for. Kind of a
Took a
loaded
turn
question,
there. I
so
thought we were talking about trails and mountain biking, and then you know,
yeah,
took a turn
I
into
know.
recession planning. So I have 2 anecdotes there. One is, so the previous FRUTA plan that we, picked up when we did that plan it was, adopted in 2008. They were planning for another doubling of their population. And of course, the recession happened. And so looking at the plan is almost comical because they didn't grow for almost a decade. And so when we picked that plan update in 2018, they were on the brink. They were starting to grow a little bit again. But I think I learned a lot from, looking at that old plan that was planning for all this growth and thinking about a plan that's more based on vision and values. And yes, it's going to have some lofty recommendations, but there's also going to be low-hanging fruit and practical recommendations. And so I think there's going to be something for you to work with. If, let's say, we use this plan for the next 10 years, for you to look at your budget and keep your eye on some of those visionary ideas while also saying, okay, we only have the money for X, Y, and Z recommendations. Another example is that we worked on the Clear Creek County comprehensive plan. And with the Henderson mine always on the brink of closure, they're in a pretty dire fiscal situation where most of their county revenues come from that mine. And so they really wanted a fiscally constrained plan or a fiscal impact analysis so that they could see a development application or they could see a project. And we gave them a framework to think through what the fiscal impact of a particular project was. I mean, they were being extremely conservative with their money and cutting staff. And so they were not in a great position. And so we developed a tool and worked with them to have that fiscal impact available to them so that they could be more conservative with their decision making. So those are just a couple examples that kind of get at what you're thinking about.
Those are great. Thank you, Gabby. And also, I side with Tom. I love Leadville. Great town.
Nicole, Tanya, any comments or questions?
Nope, I think everyone's kind of covered it.
Yeah, same. I've enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
I have a couple. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, Nicole. Carly, I think it's good to see the transportation focus. It seems like comp plan. That would be a good element to weave in strongly. And then Cheney, I like what you talked about, and you just gave those visuals on the modeling, like showing what different say building heights or numbers of stories or even just design, setback designs, looks like, or, feels like, or, and getting a sense of what building something, even a small area out to its maximum, say 35 feet, how much that really creates. And, the fact that you can then model it different directions and see what that looks like. Those visuals are good. I do have a question though. You seem to talk a lot about expanding the CBD. I don't recall, I don't see that very much in the RFP. So I'm just kind of curious where that, because it seemed like you talked a lot about that. So I'm just curious. Not to put you on the spot, but it is an interview.
I thought I read something in the RFP about the option to expand the CBD. So that's what that was from. I also just noticed one of your agenda items next is about rezoning from high density residential to CBD that is perhaps not going to happen. So I know that it can be controversial, but it also might be necessary as, we're thinking 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And to be honest, just a high level look through your code, general commercial and neighborhood commercial with your setbacks, being 25 feet and you have really tiny lots, it really constrains development. So you might need to think about expanding that in the future, but that would be a conversation that we would have with the community. It may be very controversial, and may be very welcomed. I don't know.
It'll be both, for guaranteed. I see it in the RFP. It's kind of in parentheses in one place, and it's definitely something to be considered, and all things need to be in. And I like the modeling because it really can tell us what we can do with what we have, and then look at what we can do next. I do agree that, I live in one of the parts of town where we definitely live in little postage stamp lots, but we're setbacks sometimes hamstring us. So yeah.
Well, the other thing is that your design standards and guidelines only apply to the central business district and then the neighborhood, the residential. And so your GC and NC districts are left out of that. And if something, a big development were to come in there without the provision of design standards and guidelines, it might freak people out. So just thinking ahead about what you want to be in the purview of design standards, and guidelines and what you're okay with, kind of just seeing what the market brings.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely out of the sub area plan, we plan to make, as Jesse said, code changes, and and looking at all the zone districts makes sense. Any other comments? Questions? If not, we're going to invite Norris Design back to join us, and we'll continue the discussion. We will have a public comment period as well when y'all are here. So Miranda, what time do you need from us?
I've been giving people 5 minutes, so if we can reconvene at 9:37, just to give them a little bit of time to jump on.
Yes.
Great.
Question, Miranda, for the public comment, would there potentially be more questions for the consultants?
Only if Mayor Billy allows the consultants to respond to comments. So potentially.
Okay, we'll just follow your lead.
I'll kind of read the room because our time is kind of ticking away, and I'll read the tone of it.
Okay, sounds good.
Time. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. About 4 more minutes, 9:37. Hello, everyone. Do we have folks here now from
I don't.
both?
Oh yeah, Elena. Looks like Elena's on. So we have one. Yeah, I think we have representation from both.
Right, great. Elena, I'm going to ask you a question right off the bat. What was your role 10 years ago with our 2013 comp plan?
Sure, we were a sub to SE Group. It was Melissa Sherburne and I who ran the plan, and I helped lead community engagement and worked with downtown too when we're looking at the setbacks to the creek and things like that. How do we work with the DDA? Those types of items. I'd been really involved with Downtown Colorado Inc. at the time as well, and so that was my role.
Okay, great. And then to be clear, are you the only person I see here from your group?
Kate Berg is getting back on.
Okay, good. We'll probably just get started because of time. But yeah, I look forward to having her or whoever else from your team join us. So trustees, initially we have representatives of both teams here. Do you have any questions for both before we move to public comment? Or questions for either or both? If not, let's go ahead and move to public comment. Public comment, you got 3 minutes to talk about, to give us comment on these presentations and their plan consultants we're talking to about doing comp plan with us. Raise your hand or just start talking. I don't see any hands yet. Hearing none, and interrupt me if I'm cutting you off too soon, but hearing none, I'm going to bring it back to the board, to the trustees for questions, comments, and deliberation here before we can make a motion.
Yeah, Billy, I think we'd be in great hands with either one. I think that there's also, I love that it's down to these two who worked with us previously. I think both kind of understand and know our unique characteristics. I do like the idea that the folks that are working on our transportation plan could also help us and bridge some of the, ability to also work on the comprehensive plan, just that shared knowledge. And, I do worry about the survey fatigue that is potential for us to go into this next phase, especially with having just finished housing, going into multimodal, going into comp, going into our branding. And so we do need to be very strategic about that. But quite honestly, I think we'll be in good hands with either one.
Good points about the transportation and about the fatigue, survey fatigue. Other comments from the trustees? Tanya, anything else or anything that you're thinking of?
No, I mean, it's a tough decision, as it doesn't seem like anybody has a particular edge for me. It's a good win-win for us, but it's hard to decide.
Yeah, I mean, I like the transportation side with SE, and I like the frankly the mitigate the resiliency expertise that comes with North Design. To me, there was a little more talk from the North Design team about just the culture of the community and kind of the balance of growth and just maintain the balance of development maintained with, listen, maintaining the cultural character of the town and focusing on the culture of the town. That was something that just came through for me more with Norris Design. I think, I hear more like, the SC group, I heard more of the development side specifically. I wasn't hearing as much about the cultural. Both teams touched on 3 Mile Plan, which was good to see. Them both bring it up because that's something we need as well to come out of this. Those are just some of my. I mean, I like the fact that we have people in both teams that worked with us 10 years ago. They did different roles. Definitely not a clear-cut decision. Maybe good. More conversation. All right. So I think the question before the board is, which consultant does the BOT want to contract with for the comprehensive plan update? This is an action item. It would call for a move. So I make a motion to direct staff. Actually, and I'm very open to discussion on this, but I'm just getting the ball rolling. So I make a motion to direct staff to work on contract negotiations with Norris Design.
Hey, Billy, can I offer a process?
Definitely. I'm just trying to jumpstart.
Maybe just go around the table with the BOT and just ask which one they prefer.
That sounds fantastic. So I will, there is no second. That motion is on the floor, but nonetheless, Jesse, that's a great suggestion. I'll go around. We'll ask everyone who you're leaning towards, what you're thinking. I guess I played my card. I'm leaning towards Norris Design.
Mayor Billy, I would just recommend maybe you remove your motion.
Oh,
it's not.
I was actually, so I will remove my motion or hold back my motion from the table right now. And I thank you. I was actually scrambling in my head for the words, but so I lean towards Norris Design. That's where I lean right now. Let's go right around the table and see what folks think.
This is Trustee Sterling. I would lean towards SE Group.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole. This is a compliment to both teams that we are having a hard time expressing ourselves on this. Jesse, what do you think?
I'm feeling in favor of SC Group at the moment for some of the similar reasons that Nicole mentioned.
Thank you. That's good. Tanya?
I just have a question about, it's confusing to me that Norris Design collaborated with the SE Group to complete the 2013 update. So it's like, it's confusing to me in the sense that, why couldn't they both work together on this 2023 update? I mean, how did that come in place where they worked together when they seem to be in competition at the moment?
I don't know if Elena or Gabby or whoever it would be best suited to answer that, or both of you.
Well, it's rather awkward, but I'll go ahead, Mayor Billy, because we're all consultants.
Interview.
respect each other. But one of the planners that used to be at SE Group was the lead with me, and she's no longer there. And so she and I worked together on the Silverthorne comp plan as well, the update recently.
Yeah, I
Thank
think we're both firms that are in Summit County, and I think there's a history of sometimes collaborating and sometimes competing. I think it's just project by project, make those decisions. So in this particular case, we kind of chose our own path, and here we are. So
Who was the lead in 2013 for the
So if
comp
I
plan?
remember correctly, it was Melissa Sherborne, who Elena mentioned, was the main planner, and then Mark Kane, who's the principal in charge. He was the principal in charge, but the primary planner that worked with Elena was a woman named Melissa Sherborne, has moved on.
And Mark's with SE Group.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I'm still really undecided in a good way, I guess. Like not really leaning towards anybody. I think either choice is going to do a good job, and they seem to know our community. I didn't really get the vibe like Mayor Billy did that one is more inclined to be more community based while the other tends to be more business based. I think in the end you're going to be kind of like told what to do by all of our engagement meetings that are going to happen in the first phase. So I'm not too worried about that. So I'm not really a good decider at the moment. I'm really sorry. I'm just been reviewing everything and everybody seems great and I don't lean either way. I'm sorry.
That's fine, and I appreciate your perspective. John and Tom, what do you guys think?
I really feel your pain, Tanya. I'm also having a little bit of a struggle. I do have one real quick question. I think it's fair to ask Elena. I didn't get a chance to ask your thoughts on. I know this is not a 60-second question or less, but I wish it would be. But is there something that stands out with the past designs that you've built in for towns that really speaks toward resilience in a time of economic turmoil? I mean, something that kind of like maybe just a quick highlight.
Sure, and this is a unique example from the town of Hayden, but they're in Route County, just outside of Steamboat, so resort adjacent community, heavily influenced by the ski area and city of Steamboat Springs, but at the same time facing a massive change of economy with the shutdown of coal mining and their substation. So they're about to lose 60% of their revenue for their school district. So our 3-mile plan and our entire planning policy document really focused in on not only their downtown, but how to gain more economic traction from the airport, from potential industrial development with that, since it's all being taken out of Steamboat completely with infill and redevelopment. And we're now working with them to create a geothermal microgrid with the Colorado Energy Office for their Northwest Colorado Business Park, and just received $10 million in funding for a new affordable housing community from the state. So implementation in action.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just decided I'm with Mayor Billy. I'm siding with you, Elena. It's a tough decision though, Gabby. You were great as well. Really appreciate you guys, all of you.
I'm a contrarian, so I'm going to go with Norris.
Okay, so we've got Tom's with Norris, John and myself leaning towards Norris, and Nicole and Jesse were leaning towards SE, and Tanya is trying to make up her is for good reason, still deciding. So I move to direct staff to work on the contract negotiations with Norris Design.
we have a second?
I think that should be probably John or Tom.
I think so, yeah.
I'm waiting here.
I
Well,
second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. Miranda?
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
No.
Trustee Severs,
No.
Trustee Sterling,
No.
Trustee Mountain,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Okay, it's a tie vote.
So we tie, so the motion is denied. I've done that in a while. Right?
Correct.
Did I do my math? Okay, and in this case, and I'm sorry, consultants, while we go back to the dynamic we haven't had in a while, does that mean that we're going with SE, or does another motion need to be made? Which
You need to make another
Another
motion.
motion.
So I will move to direct staff to work on contract negotiations with SE Group.
Second.
Miranda?
Trustee Mountain,
I mean, I was really on the fence on this one, and I still would say no.
Okay.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Oh, yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Mayor Billy.
No. So the motion passes. And thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. And it looks like we'll be contracting with SE Design. I appreciate all your time and all your good work that you've done for other communities and for us. And we look forward to what we do together to do our 2023 comp plan.
Thanks, everyone.
Elena, I'll come visit you sometime.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Just to clarify, Gabby, I think we won. Win-win either way.
Yes, it was a win-win
So
either way.
if
Welcome
I
to the
would have
team.
said no, then the no's would have won again, and we would have made another motion, and it would have happened over and over and over again.
Well,
you
yeah,
could,
I mean,
or
that
it could
time
get
you saved this from
postponed.
I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking, that it would keep making motions, and it would just keep tying.
You could just, and for future notice, you could postpone the decision to a later meeting.
Thank you. In
Yeah,
this
I
case,
don't think
Tanya, I
that's
think you
necessary.
did the right thing.
I think we did the right thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tanya, I appreciate it.
I honestly think they're both going to do a great job, would have done a great job. Maybe they'll collaborate again.
Yes, maybe they will. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you. That being said, we are running out of time and we've got two very important things yet to discuss. I don't know that both or either will take an incredible amount of time, but we will have public comment as well. So I make a motion that we extend the meeting to 10:30. Adding to that, Tom and I will not be here on the 19th, and these are both things important.
Okay, I'll second.
Discussion items. Thanks, Tom.
It's midnight here.
Oh, God, crap. I didn't know you were ready. Thank you.
Trustee Corvalon,
Can I ask a quick question? Just real quick clarification. Are both these items time sensitive? The first one is, correct?
First one, in my opinion, is.
yes.
The second one is in that we have to have committed by November 1st. We have 3 more meetings.
Okay.
But we would have to have a
Assuming-
discussion and an action. Actually, go
And
ahead,
that's
Mike.
and that's assuming that you want to do a 3-year commitment.
By
That you need to
November
commit
1st.
by November 1st, right? And so the only concern is that you're running out of meetings to really dive into this, but that's a choice you all can make.
Yeah, but I don't, just to point out, and yes, but we have 3 more meetings and times, but you know, that would give us time to do it. But to commit or to not commit, you know, if we commit a year later, it means we still have to do, you know, we're kind of getting a late start on the third of the House, the percentages we have to meet. So if you remember from the thing. So anyways, I'll go ahead and take the roll on the time.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Trustee Mountain,
No.
Trustee Severs,
No.
Mayor Billy,
Yes, and thank you.
Mayor
Go
Pro
ahead.
Tem Mahold.
Yes.
Thank you all, and I'm sorry about this. We knocked a bunch of stuff off this meeting as it was. And it just, the other things took a while. So we got our, go ahead, Miranda, with our first item, discussion item 7.1 for 101st Street rezoning consideration.
Yep. So tonight before you is the reconsideration of the rezoning of 101st Street. I'm not going to get into the whole history of this. I think you all understand it, but just super quick overview. Back in April, it was brought before you ordinance 837 to rezone 101st Street from high density residential to central business district. The Board of Trustees did approve that rezone. However, due to the process surrounding a referendum petition, it did kind of hold that decision. The referendum petition also included a protest hearing, but ultimately at the end of the day, the referendum petition held up. And so what that means is the Board of Trustees now has to decide, do you want to repeal Ordinance 837, which would move 101st Street back, 101st Street would remain high density residential, or do you want to call for a special election, which would require the voters to decide? It's important to note that the owner of this property, Ronald Mitchell, is aware of obviously the decisions before you, and he is asking that the BOT reverse their decision and that you return this back to high density residential, because his intention is to submit a preliminary plan unit development application before the end of the year for all 6 parcels. So if you've ever seen his full design for this Nederland Central Business Redevelopment Plan, there are 6 parcels or 6 groupings, and he's never run it as a full product. And so he intends to submit with the understanding that 101st Street would remain high density residential, and he'd ask for consideration for that to be allowed to be paid parking. And so this, by returning it back to high density residential, it allows him to move forward on this preliminary PUD. Of course, the board has 2 considerations. You can make either decision to repeal the ordinance or refer it to the voters. But as town staff, we also agree with the decision to return it back to high density zoning, because of the applicant's request and recognizing that it does build the path forward for now to have a larger conversation with the community about his full redevelopment plan. There's nothing to vote on tonight because we need to know which direction you're going to go. Depending on if you're repealing the ordinance or you're calling for an election, will really give us the guidance of whether we're bringing back an ordinance for adoption on the 19th or if we're bringing you a resolution calling for that election. So we just need to know, A, do you have any questions? And B, what direction are you giving us as staff in terms of the reconsideration of Ordinance 837?
Can I ask again, what was your, just so you say it out loud, what was the staff recommendation?
Staff recommendation is to repeal Ordinance 837, which would return it back to high density residential. And in doing so, recognizing that it does, Rob Mitchell does plan to bring forward a preliminary PUD before the Planning Commission, likely in November. And we can start to have the larger conversation with the community about his proposals. And it will go through a preliminary PUD hearing both before the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees.
Why is this on here as a discussion item instead of an action item?
Because we don't know what you want to do.
We have to make a decision, but we can't, I was going to address this, but we can't move anything to action because we have neither an ordinance or a resolution drafted. So whatever we do today on these 2 discussion items is just in the discussion phase to set us up for future action. I did know, and I did see that what the staff recommendation was. I just wanted to set out aloud again, just to make sure it was clear. My main comment is that I appreciated watching the whole democratic process play out through this. You know, we made a vote. It stood, and then there was a referendum, there was a protest, there was an appeal, and now we are where we are, and the applicant is offered has pulled back his appeal and has offered a path, and I'll say I appreciate that, and so I did, frankly, while it was going through the democratic process, I was pretty split on a repeal or a election, but pardon me, I want to just see what the public thinks, but I also feel like there's been good faith. So I appreciate, I guess I'm not doing a very good job of asking a clarifying question, but I appreciate where this has led us one way or the other. And with that, I guess I'll shut my mouth and ask for any clarifying questions before we go to public comment.
Thanks, Mayor Billy. I don't have any clarifying questions. I think this is a pretty quick and easy decision for me.
Any questions, comments, clarifying questions or comments? If not, we will go to public comment.
Hi, this is Teresa Robertson. Could I make a 2-second comment?
3 minutes.
I'm not going to take 3 minutes. It's a light meeting. I just wanted, there's 2 points I'd like to reflect back. Just knowing that when we did get the petition in 2 weeks' time, we easily collected 98 signatures that included many neighborhoods. The East Side, Big Spring, Sunnyside, O-Town, West Side, Nederland neighborhoods. So, that was a sampling. We just wasn't one neighborhood that we got those signatures from. And then I also hope that initially in the meeting, I think it was back in April 4th, Trustee Coombs Esmeal suggested moving paid parking into the high density residential zoning table. And that seemed like a very elegant solution. And I just wanted to joggle people's memories about that. So thank you. That was all.
Thanks, Tristan. Appreciate it.
Mayor, really, would it be okay if I commented on that really quick? It's Miranda.
Yes.
Just to remind the Board of Trustees to maybe just that the plan is to work on parking code for exactly what Teresa is speaking to, is adding parking to the use group table and really looking at how to streamline paid parking so that it's universal, whether it's the town doing it or private. And so I can provide confirmation that that's happening simultaneously to this preliminary PUD.
Miranda, can you repeat yourself?
That we're going to bring before the Board of Trustees at the next meeting the request to begin to work on the code amendments for the use group table to add in parking, and then also to create language surrounding paid parking so that there's universal standards. So it's not like one lot handles paid parking one way while another lot does it differently. We can have a standard that can be met for all parking, but are taking the path forward to look at what zones should have high density, or excuse me, should allow parking as a use in this near future.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, good.
That's helpful. Thank you. Any other public comments? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for consideration and guidance to the town staff and attorney.
Well, this is Tanya. Given that Ron himself wants us to reconsider, I think I am wanting to reconsider to allow the path forward for whatever the future holds here.
Can I just
Thanks.
second?
Thanks,
Agreed.
Tanya.
We're going to go to a public vote anyway on the PUD, so I don't think there's a lot of things to discuss here. I think we're all moved. I think if you ask for a nod, you're going to get it.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm agreeing with you all. So first one here from Nicole and Jesse, and then call for a nod.
Yes, I would be a nod for yes.
I nod yes, in agreement with staff recommendation.
All right, well, there's two nods, and I'll just say, yeah, I think there was an act of good faith, part of Ron, and I, for one, give a nod to the repeal. Not for one, but I give a nod to the repeal. Tom, are you nodding?
Yeah.
All right, so we got our 4, and John and Tanya, I think you already did. So, so your guidance on this is, Miranda, your guidance on this is to go ahead and plan the let me go back to I think it's this one's an ordinance, right?
Yes, correct.
If you would please prepare and draft a resolution draft an ordinance repealing ordinance 837, and it looks like that would come back at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
So Tom and I will not be here, but I do believe the 5 of you will be. Thank you. Miranda, when
Yeah,
you're ready.
And I'm happy with Proposition 123. I'm happy to just give a quick overview. I'm not sure how deep into a discussion, but perhaps this is the time just to answer some questions. So I'm going to go real quick. In 2022, the Colorado voters approved the State Affordable Housing Fund.
Can I say one thing just to kind of put everyone's mind in a calmer space? We don't have to. We may decide that we want more time to think about before we give direction on this, or we may give it tonight. But we have time to meet on this more, once or twice before November. Go ahead, Miranda.
Okay, so under that State Affordable Housing Fund is Proposition 123 is really what we call it. And so it's an opportunity to access really dedicated and sustainable funding for affordable housing projects. However, the only way to get access to that funds is to do a commitment. So what that commitment is it's saying that over a period of 3 years, November 1st, 2023 to November 1st, 2026, we will increase housing by 9%. And that 9% threshold is really kind of dependent on which AMI you want to operate off of. So what is in this packet here is really what you need to consider should you want to opt in. So I'm just going to kind of move on to page 2 here. You've got some baseline data. So depending on the different income level types, and I put a link in the packet so you can see exactly where this information came from. You're looking at anywhere from 7 to 13 commitments. And what a commitment means is that by 2026, you're going to have, say you pick 7, you're going to have 7 low income permits that have been issued. And that's permits for potentially a new build. That's converted homes that are deed restrictive, but you're going to have an add of somewhere between 7 to 13 new affordable units. And so really kind of what the board needs to consider is, are you interested in Prop 123? Do you want to make this commitment? And if so, what baseline would you use? A couple other things to consider is that you don't have to opt in this year if you don't want to. You could choose to opt in next year and then you would only do 6%. Or you opt in 2025 and you only do 3%. And so it's really just going to depend on where the town feels like you're ready to do this. What I would say is not opting in does put a delay on our ability to access some really important funding. Yes, there's funding out there that's not committed to Prop 123, but I would say the bulk of a lot of what we might be interested in, like affordable home ownership, land banking, some of that concessionary debt, some of those things, you really do need to opt into Prop 123. So Prop 123 is complex. I'm happy to answer questions. I tried to make it really drive into it as much as I could in that aim, but perhaps just any initial questions, comments, feedback
I do.
on Prop 123. Yeah.
I'm just struggling with the math. I'm not seeing how 7 to 13 units equals what is it, 9%?
They round up.
Correct.
So if you say
They do round
I
up.
don't understand. Is it 9% of the housing stock that we currently have, or 9% of what would be built in that year? What is,
If you
where's
look
the
at
9,
page
what's
two,
the 9% of?
if you look at page 237, those are the different baselines and different models. And so, in the third column from the left, affordable housing baseline estimate. So that's your 100%, the 100. So they take, 9% of that number, 139, 71, 128, and it equals X. And then they round up. They got to round up because you can't build a portion of a house.
Okay, but the 139 represents the units that would possibly be built in a year?
The
Or
affordable
what?
housing baseline.
Okay, so it's not 9% of the housing stock we currently have.
Correct.
It's some 9% of some random number that I'm not following exactly. It's not random. I know it's not random, but
So it's the
okay.
housing numbers that are considered to be affordable within this income type. So here you are talking about the number of housing that's affordable using the income type limit for this first one, which is Broomfield County, Gilpin County, Jefferson County.
Okay. Well, real quick, since I know we all want to go to bed or whatever, I'm in favor of this. I'm in favor of using the state medium income for a 3-year commitment of 7, and I think we can do it. I think there's no reason we couldn't do that, especially with all that help of all these grants. I could think we could do 13, but if we could do more, that's better, but I'd like to commit myself to lower so that we don't fail.
Yeah, and one thing I should know is the penalty for not meeting your commitment is losing the ability to access funding in 2026 to 2027. So yes, the goal is to pick something that is really tangible, something we can do. And as a reminder, it's not just new builds, although that's encouraged. It is also doing some conversions of current units. But I do think you're going to be looking at private partnerships. The town doesn't own a lot of parcels, and so those are things to consider. Is like, what's the approach here that you're going to take? Don't have to decide today, but things to be mindful of.
Hey, Miranda, I had a hard time finding it, but did it give any like thresholds or amounts that we could obtain? I mean, so if we were to do the 9%, and I'm assuming it, it tiers down depending on if you do 9%, 6%, or 3% of your inventory, but what's the potential of like funds that we're a dollar amount that we can access with this?
I mean, yeah, they have millions, and so there was no threshold, but like one example might be, some of that code work.
Right.
So you've got some planning grants that are available. I know Craig is interested in tapping into some of the funds to create a regional housing authority. So I don't know the threshold. I mean, this is new money rolling down, but there's millions, if not billions, out there to tap into.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
And this would be in addition to the other DOLA grants that we can access as a result of finishing our phase 1 of the housing study, correct?
Correct. And those grants are going to be more towards, again, whether it's planning or it's true capacity building. Yes, those will help continue with the housing that's under IHOP program
great.
under DOLA. Yeah,
Yep.
so it's just like another level of housing funding that I do think would be unfortunate to pass up. And as if you looked, there's almost everyone's committing. All of our neighbors are committing. Lyons is in the process. Gilpin's doing it. Boulder's doing it. I'm not saying we have to jump on board with everyone else, but we've got all of our neighbors who are going to jump in so they can access this funding. Which means if we all go in together, and Lyons and Gilpin have already talked about this, if we're all going to opt in together and commit, then it's an opportunity for all of us to even pursue funding, across the peak to peak and go into these collaborative grants together.
Well, like I was at this presentation last week at the Boulder County Housing Summit with Miranda, and the affordable housing programs, the land spanking, which is money to buy land potentially for the town to get money to acquire and preserve land, or those 5 things on page 2, those 5 bold-faced items on page 238 are things that this would give us above and beyond. So that local planning capacity grant, I've had some late conversations with like the mayor of Lyons about, like some kind of, a housing authority or something. If you look at all of Gilpin, Lyons, Ropin, Ward, Janesville, Gold Hill, maybe even Estes Park, a peak to peak housing authority, then, whether we do that or not, it's opening us up to these possibilities. And like Miranda said, it allows us to do things as a group too. So that is just, I mean, the amount of money they talked about was definitely in the hundreds of millions, if not billions. There was these 5 pillars it's kind of built on are really, what makes it pretty comprehensive.
Now, Miranda, is there any problem or do you see any risk? Because I know that you've captured, the neighboring AMIs and the different counties. Is there any risk to us in terms of being accepted if we were to go with the Grand County AMI versus, the Broomfield, Gilpin, Jefferson?
No, we just have to explain why. So I do think if you're more interested in the 7 number, go with the state median income, easier sell. But you just have to explain why you're not choosing to go with Boulder County. And, and I think we've talked a bit with the DOLA representatives. I talked a bit with them of just recognizing that, well, yes, Nederland's in Boulder County. It is not Boulder, it's not the metropolitan areas of Boulder County. And so sometimes those income limits are going to swing our pendulum kind of in the wrong direction, but doesn't actually mirror what Nederland truly can do.
Right.
And so no matter which one we choose, what I will have to do in the profile that we fill out is just explain why we're choosing to go with maybe a lesser amount or a different amount or a county that's not the one we live in.
Yeah. And even comparable, it's on county based, but Lyons as a city is committing, and you said Gilpin as a city is committing. And we're still less population than both those.
Correct. And, right. So that's another, and so when I ask them, can we just go with this? I mean, you can also pick your own, a little bit more complicated, but we could pick something entirely different. But they said if we go with 7, no concerns. They understood why just even our ability to build internally can be tough. If we're just going to go the build route, we're limited in terms of our space. And so those things would be understanding. If there were any questions, they would kick the application back to me and just ask me to fill in more information, but had no concerns, but did encourage us to pick something that is here versus doing our own. Because if we do our own, we then really have to explain why we kind of didn't want any of these and wanted to do something different.
I guess go ahead.
So I guess the last comment I'll make is, myself and Mayor Billy have been on the housing subcommittee. It is now that housing study is starting to wrap up. It has to wrap up toward the end of the year where we will have, it was already presented to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission is aware of the things that, the recommendations or whatnot. So I guess in my personal opinion, I would just say we're actually primed to make a commitment for these funds. And part of our goal set was next year anyway, after this first initial grant wraps up, is to start to apply for some of those phase 2 funds. And this being something supplemental, I think we can make that commitment for 9% over 3 years. And that's what would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Tom reached out after Derek, after Brian and Houston presented to the PC, and with because we've been getting updates, with Peak to Peak Housing Authority or Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services, but when with these real numbers that came out that they presented to the PC about how many homes we need built, and I think with the fact that we're able to create, or will need to create code changes to, coming on this housing needs assessment, I think it's realistic and reasonable for us to assume that within the next 3 years, by November of 2026, we would be able to, approve 7 permits. It's homes permitted. It's still, if construction is still, the construction can bleed beyond that if needed, but I think it seems like not only is there momentum, but the need is just being laid out for us. It's pretty significant.
Yeah, and okay, so that was just another clarifying question, Miranda. So it's 7 permits, building permits or conversion, it's not, there's a unit isn't necessarily defined as a set type of square footage or anything like that. There aren't any constraints around that, is there?
No, and you bring up a good point where it's permits, but if someone came to permit a triplex, that's 3 units.
Okay,
And
that's
so,
good.
you know,
That's
you
what I
got
wanted to know.
you have 3 triplexes and you meet your threshold. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable in terms of how the kind of, I think it just maybe some partnerships or looking at available land, but it's very much doable.
Yeah, and so the only last comment that I would make as just to you know, the rest of the BOT members here is that we decide to do this then becomes encapsulated on our BOT goals as something that we continue to drive through. It has to be something that if we're willing to commit, then it has to be visible and it has to get on that BOT goal sheet.
And one thing I will say is the housing committee out of the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services, they're happy to help champion this. So, you know, if you do commit to Prop 123, they're willing to kind of be the extension of helping to get it done. And so there is that support built in as well.
Just out of curiosity, Miranda, this has actually been an interesting conversation. I'm curious, what's the biggest hurdle behind this entire movement? What sorts of other areas can we help to stimulate conversation and get momentum behind this? Is identifying a builder the biggest challenge typically in this?
Yeah, well, I just think, in my opinion, just in the time I've been here, we've never really engaged private developers. I think it would be the first time, at least that I'm aware of, that we would be engaging. I also think the other hurdle is the codes. You know, a lot of builders have a hesitancy of wanting to develop here because plant investment fees for a triplex, if you have to have a 1-inch line, you're looking at almost $100,000 in plant investment fees. And so really the work being done under the housing needs assessment, as Trustee Sterling said, is coming at such a perfect time, because if the board, say, changes code, maybe example waives or reduces plant investment fees for affordable housing, developers may be happy to come in to want to do that work. But right now, I know a lot of them are looking at our code just saying, like, affordability is not realistic here because you have so many limitations. So I think that's the barrier number one we have to get forward. And then number 2 is actually engaging those developers.
But yeah, but wouldn't ADU, like if we looked at even ADU for long-term rental, ADU, you know, zoning changes or code changes, an ADU would count as one of those units too, would it not?
Yeah,
I'm not
I
opposed
mean,
to
the
talking about that.
unit's not defined. I mean, I think, you know, again, what's barriers with ADU units is that you can't build an ADU without your primary structure. And a lot of people want to build their ADU so they can build their primary structure to then rent out their ADU. So our code just has limitations. It just, I think once those are removed, I think will be a great space for developers to want to come in, because they're seeing the town made the serious commitment of removing the barriers in code to promote affordable and alternative, kind of under the other umbrella, affordable or alternative housing.
Yeah, it was interesting that people presenting at the county summit last week were, you know, talking about some of the innovative things they have done, you know, for affordable housing, and all of them had completed already a housing needs assessment and made code changes that came out of that housing needs assessment, which really opened the door for them to do some of these amazing projects for affordable housing. So.
And I know Katrina I don't know if you're going to jump to public comment, but I know Katrina Harms she's with us for the long haul here. But she was the one who, of course, I've talked to you about the Peak to Peak and has been serving on the housing, but I don't know if you wanted to get there, but she is here to offer that support.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to public comment.
I don't know if she's still with us. Katrina, are you still there?
I see her name.
I see her. I wouldn't blame her if she bailed.
I'm still awake.
Here she's still with us.
Yes, I just want to reiterate that the housing subcommittee, or this housing subcommittee of the Peak to Peak Housing and Human Services Alliance will be looking at helping the Peak to Peak with their work plan, but their work plan has things that are very similar and would synchronize with doing some of this other work. So we would be looking to and happy to help and jump in on that.
Thanks, Katrina. Are there other public comments on this? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. I think we can do this in 2 minutes. The two questions before the board: does the BOT want to commit to Proposition 123? And then I'll throw a third bullet. If so, which baseline of affordable housing does the BOT want to use for the commitment? And then my third bullet would be: does the BOT want to discuss this further at the next meeting before we give a nod? So I'm looking for a nod. I'll ask, first of all, does the BOT need to or want to discuss this further at the next meeting?
No.
Okay. Do I have a nod on committing to Proposition 123?
I'm a yes.
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 Great. Thank you. Or at least 5 yeses. If so, which baseline of affordable housing does the BOT want to use for the commitment on page 237?
I would propose at the 9% over 3 years and 7 units.
So the state medium income baseline.
Yes.
Agreed.
I nod on that too. That's 3 of us. Any other nods to the state median income, 7 homes over 3 years?
Tanya
would
was a
agree.
yes.
Tanya. So we have nods and those positive nods for those, Miranda.
Yeah, so
4
if
nods.
if it's okay, I guess I would like to bring this back as a consent agenda item on the 19th, if there's no desire to discuss it further.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
I have no idea what Eric thinks, but I'm good with that.
Fine by me.
Sure.
He better ask his questions up front.
Right? Better email him. No. Yeah, but you can always pull it off consent. Just a reminder if you're not ready. But we bring a
Okay.
resolution saying that yes, this is what you plan to do, so that I take it to record it.
Okay, and if there's any need to extend that, we have all of October to meet and talk about it more. I want to thank everyone for your time tonight. I have one other piece of other business. Tom will be doing a training at the Civic Academy for the next 7 Tuesdays, starting the 19th. So he'll miss a bunch of meetings with us, but we appreciate everyone being there. Anything you want to add on that, Tom? Tom is gone. Otherwise, we appreciate your time tonight. And it's 10:30, and I make a motion to end the meeting.
I second.
Great.
All in
Anyone
favor?
anyone opposed?
Negative.
No.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Nope.
Thanks, everybody. It's 10:30.
Thank
Get
you.
your beauty sleep.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for good work tonight.
Thank you.
I guess.